Ethan Klein is very similar to Donald Trump in many ways. Donald Trump will let
Ethan, who I've praised for standing up for fair use in the past, is pretending the lawsuit is about defending the React community. He starts his video by condemning lazy reaction videos as an injustice. I guess maybe we'll read one of these.
By the way, my favorite part about this is, like, you guys can post on Twitter all you want, but this is an actual lawsuit and it's happening and it's coming, and you're going to have to argue in front of a judge, and this is not going to work, right? It's not going to work. That's the best part about this. You guys are fucking screaming into the wind. You're not going to stop what's coming. But anyway.
True.
Although I think nobody really cares about any of these people. Least of all Hassan, who is not opening his wallet, by the way. They've each made everybody's made a GoFundMe. Denims ran. She was so fast, and she wanted to open hers before Casey Tron and Frogan.
Well, to be fair, she had an account.
It doesn't take long.
She already had an account because she opened one and closed it.
Yeah, that's what I mean. So
I think she
didn't need to do that step.
So they all now have a GoFundMe, and I think it's so funny that now that they're competing against each other, for defense dollars, and Smog the Dragon, aka Hassan Piker, the communist, socialist savior, he is not opening his wallet. He is not promoting. He's barely promoted their GoFundMes.
He did.
He retweeted it or
gave them
something.
a very mild shout out, and he didn't donate. Why the fuck wouldn't he donate at least?
That I don't know.
Like, why he's saying you guys go support them? I'm not. That's what he said.
Very interesting.
He did not say I'm not. He didn't say
No,
that.
by not
Thanks, Carnivore. 187.
Wait, Ethan is.
He's Mr. Generosity, isn't he?
Like a token donation for some of your strongest soldiers would be warranted.
He's Mr. Generosity. He's Mr. Charity. He couldn't even drop 100.
It might be coming. Might be coming.
Oh, he's got to do it on camera.
Better come. It better come a lot. It better come a lot, because their GoFundMe so far are not going well. It turns out when it comes to defending them against what's pretty obviously egregious, undefensible behavior, and not just fueled by hating me, which is what Frogan's initial promise was. Not that she raised, what did she raise, like 40,000 or something?
I have that whole debate where he did the worm. Yeah, I mean, Ethan Klein is very similar to Donald Trump in many ways. Donald Trump will let
What the
bygones be bygones as long as you offer fealty, or as long as he can use you. Ethan sees Asmongold and XUC as allies. Ethan sees a bunch of neo-Nazis as reliable allies because they all fucking despise me.
When has Ethan ever... Has he ever said anything good at all about Asmongold? Or even XQC? Maybe he has and I just missed it.
And that's precisely the reason why he's perfectly fine with aligning with them and working with them.
Working with them? Like, how?
Because he operates on the enemy of my enemy is my friend attitude. That's it. Pathetic. Pathetic, immoral, desperate man. A 40-year-old still doing like this.
He's so... Dude, that gray patch on the side of his face. Whoo! It's him up hard.
I think he's beyond upset that the nuke failed in every way. The main goal of stopping Assange's infiltration in mainstream media was a massive failure. The goal to deplatform and make smaller creators featured in the video lose viewers backfired tremendously. Every small streamer that was featured has reached unprecedented levels of success after the video. That too.
What? Every small, unprecedented levels of success for Sean DeBlack, Denims, Frogan, iDubbbz has basically gotten fucking... It feels like he's gotten nuked off the internet from his whole video. What is he talking about?
That probably pisses him off. So I think he's trying to... He's trying to throw money at the problem and frivolous lawsuits. I don't know what the goal here is. Breaking React content in general. After saving fair use, Ethan Klein will now kill fair use. One man's conquest. One man's conquest to initially create a precedent that saved fair use, that basically unfolded this new era of content creation without fear of frivolous lawsuits, is now going to turn back into, please can this be the last coverage? Yes, it will absolutely be the last coverage.
Oh, he's not going to talk about it at all. The Orbiters are on their own. Good luck.
The funniest part is all these clip farming accounts are cheering this on, not understanding they're the worst offenders. Yeah, what happened with the Noah Samson lawsuit? Chicken out of that one, didn't want the smoke. Exactly. I personally don't understand how so many spineless drama content creators are like throwing their hat in the ring. Yeah, it's just drama. These people, 3 women are going to have their lives ruined because the entire ecosystem of streamers built their careers around their harassment, and chatters are getting drama boners over it. Exactly. Anyway, that's all I got for today because I am going to go shoot my podcast, the Fear and Podcast.
Excuse me? XQC is not a malicious infringer. That doesn't pass the smell test at all. So he's on camera right there basically saying, I don't give a fuck if it's illegal. I'm going to do it anyway. If that's not the definition of, like, you know, malice, or at least like reckless disregard with respect to his infringement, I don't know what is. That to me is just not believable what he just...
XQC statements here had nothing to do with Ethan's content though, no? This was about the Lemino stuff and just React in general, no? I'm just going to assume he misunderstood or something there.
XQC is not malicious about infringing. Don't buy it at all. No one can argue with me that that is... Now, what he might ultimately say is he doesn't want to steal money or revenue from the people who he's, you know, infringing on. But that's not the only kind of malice, is when you like purposely want something. Also being, uncaring about whether you do or not, that's also a kind of malice. So yeah, I don't believe that at all. I think that is, if you have any background knowledge on XQC, it doesn't even pass the smell test to distinguish the kind of reaction that he does, principally, from these other people. That is like laughable. I'm not being purposely obtuse. I gave Ethan his credit at the start. This is what I'm being fair and balanced in all things, as all things should be. I started by saying that I don't think he's poisoning the well by laying out this principled position of fair use. I think that he's demonstrated that over the course of his career. And so I'm giving him, and I even thanked him for the case law that we have. I think that's good case law, actually. That's an example of where he was raising money for legal, the FUPA fund or whatever, where we actually got useful case law at the end of it. It was a motion for summary judgment. I think I remember. Yeah, it was a motion for summary judgment. And it's good case law. It's good precedent. It's an example of like one of the successful raising money for legal fund defense things, right? So I gave him his props at the start. But the notion that XQC is not a malicious infringer is so laughable and beyond the pale. Basically, what I think he's going to try to argue, and what I'm starting to hear is like, there's a principled reason beyond my personal disagreements with these people that I would go after them as opposed to anyone else. And that is going to be very hard for me to stomach. It's going to be hard for me to have a principled distinction there. Now, is it infringement? We'll take a look and see what the arguments are. But let's just be, it feels a little dishonest. This is probably going to be because you disagree with them and you don't like them. And it has to do with your personal disagreement and the Hassan thing and the Israel-Palestine stuff. The notion that this is a principled position to go after malicious infringers as opposed to like non-malicious infringers. And XQC, even though he's not carrying, isn't malicious. To me, that doesn't even pass the smell test.
Now, ironically,
I don't know what, I mean, has XQC ever, maybe he has, I've missed it, or was it in the first, do I want to rewatch the first 9 minutes? Has XQC ever said anything like, let's take the revenue from these guys to make sure they don't make any money on this? Like, has he ever said that ever? That's just such a weird, I don't understand that statement at all. That piece I just made, but okay.
After this debate and in the wake of this large conversation, the problem seems to have only gotten worse. You have people like Hassan Piker paving the way of fair use with what's known as chair reacts. When Hassan gets
this is
to
insane.
the bathroom or to eat or to talk to his mom or to do whatever, disappears for an extended period of time and leaves the video playing for his chair. Mr. Chair, they call it.
That's crazy.
But
The effort warned people to leave the area around the main airport in Sana'a. Then
That's wild. Like he for sure is infringing on all this. Not necessarily all of it. There's some reactions that he does that I don't think is infringing, but when he just lets a majority of the video play, like
Pisco's considering XQC malicious because he said he doesn't care about the law. Yeah, he can roll with that definition, which that is probably what he's doing. But that's clearly not what Ethan, I think, is referring to here, right?
that's crazy. They literally say watch it live. No, I understand that there could be some additional malice, but like XQC is very malicious in infringing. That's what I don't buy. Like XQC literally said, I don't care if I'm breaking the law or not. That to me.
Yeah, but that's not what Ethan is talking about not caring if you're breaking the law. I think what Ethan is talking about is literally like, I'm going to deprive this creator of revenue. I don't know why I'm qualifying this what I think. That's very clearly and very obviously what Ethan means. I think it should be very easy and obvious to understand that.
Me is like, there's a reckless disregard for all those other effects that Denims and company are trying to achieve, right?
Like, that's not the definition that Ethan is rolling with. But.
Thanks, Tomato. Is that's what you mean by malicious? That is like malicious towards other creators.
Yeah.
But it's just a different kind of malice, right? So the argument on
but that's the kind of malice that he's talking about, right?
behalf of people like XQC is, well, this brings more attention to the video anyway. So then you have to make this argument like, but XQC literally says he doesn't care about the law, but he wants to benefit these people. He wants to help them out. And so if that's his actual belief that he's helping these people, but Hassan has said similar things before. So how do you distinguish them? I think that it's just like...
We're not talking about Hassan and we're not talking about XQC. How do we distinguish them from people like the three named parties in the lawsuits? The distinguishing thing is them saying, we want to take away money from Ethan Klein. That's the distinguishing thing, right? What do you mean?
Doesn't care whether it helps him or not. And let's be honest, does he really care? He doesn't care if it helps him or not, if it hurts them. Does XQC give a shit if the video he's watching hurts the person who made it or who owns the copyright? No, he doesn't really care. Let's be honest here.
I think people would feel a little bit differently about it, actually. I disagree with that. I think it is really hard to see the harm from copyright infringement. That's why people don't feel bad when they like pirate music and shit. So it's infinite, right? Or I wasn't going to watch it anyway. I was going to buy it anyway. Oh, I ad block regardless. Oh, I would have like. I actually think it is quite hard.
And it was in this setting that I formulated an idea. What if I could make a long form, irresistible...
Like if we were to do like a really hyperbolic example, let's say that like a new content creator were to release a video, and let's say that Asmongold, XQC, Hassan, Destiny, everybody, we all react to it like the minute it comes out, and we all upload reacts to it, and we all get like views ranging from 100,000 to 10 million views on the video, and the original video got like 1,000 views. I think that not only would all the communities be like outraged about it, I think even the content creators themselves would be like, ooh, that kind of feels kind of shitty. We kind of f that dude over pretty hard, right?
Full piece of content that I knew that these streamers couldn't resist, they couldn't avoid the temptation of watching it the second it was published.
I don't have an issue with them.
Wait, so he planned this? He planned to make videos so good that it would be infringed, okay? Weird flex, but cool. I'm
wanted
following.
these people to steal my video is that I knew they would. I knew they would
Okay.
watch the entire video, add little to no commentary, react to it instantly, giving them no time to form an opinion. The trap was set, and it worked even better than I imagined.
So he's saying he set a trap. He designed a video so amazing that it would promote infringement. So he very much set a trap. Okay. I don't think that matters at all for the infringement question, but it may play into my like overall take. But I don't really think it matters for infringement, you know? I'm pretty sure like a lot of organizations make content knowing it's going to be delectable, knowing now whether it's a quote unquote trap for the purpose of filing a lawsuit. I don't know, but I don't know why that would matter.
captured pretty much every large streamer reacting to it in its entirety immediately after it was published. Now, the thing is, there were a few people that went above and beyond to commit copyright infringement. For example, Denim sits here.
Yeah, the thing is, and here's something you all have to learn, right? Malice and intent is not an element of copyright infringement. Let me blow your mind. Copyright infringement is strict liability. There's no intent requirement. So to the extent that individuals are making these kinds of statements that imply some level of malice, the only distinction that I could say, maybe in terms of damages, maybe there's some difference there. Maybe in terms of how easy it will to be to prove some of the elements, other elements, right? How obvious, maybe some of the fair use factors get extra weight.
Yeah, this is strictly true. Copyright infringement is a strict liability crime, or I don't know if it'd be considered a crime, civil tort, or tort, I guess you would say. However, I think when you're doing the four-factor assessment, I think that you're absolutely taking into account intention of how the work is being used, what it is you're doing. Like, I think all of that stuff starts to weigh in very, very, very heavily, which is going to matter a lot when you're calculating civil liability or damages and everything else, you know?
In terms of the stated intent, but it's not strictly speaking an element. And so the infringement doesn't turn on whether or not they want to take money from you. It doesn't turn on whether or not they know or think that what they're doing is fair use. It's strict liability. So a bit disingenuous in the sense that like they went above and beyond because of things they said to do copyright infringement. That said, I'm also fairly certain that you
have to be very careful not to conflate fair use with copyright infringement. I think, right, because the fair use would be the affirmative defense that you would wield when accused of copyright infringement. If you're fair use, if you're wheeling out the fair use defense, you've basically said what I've done has met all of the elements of copyright infringement, but I don't think I'm actually copyright infringing because here's my reason for why I, appropriated whatever copyrighted works, in which case I think things like intent, again, when you go to weigh the four factors, I guess it depends on how you measure or how you do intent. Like if you make something for educational purposes versus making something for, commercial YouTube purposes, like would you consider that intent? I feel like we're kind of playing word games, but I'm like, however you define intent, it's going to be evaluated when you're using fair use as a defense here, right?
We'll be describing blatant copyright infringement if the intro is anything to give us an indication.
That went above and beyond to commit copyright infringement. For example, Denim sits here silently with nearly 50,000 live viewers. That's 30 times her regular viewership. She's working directly with the Snark subreddit moderators to siphon views, and their intentions couldn't be clearer. Here's an excerpt from a sticky post from the Snark subreddit. Hey everyone, we've seen a lot of comments about wanting to watch the nuke without showing support for H3. Here's a list of creators who've supported our sub, either by engaging with us directly or citing our post in their critique.
Denim's reaction was transformative, regardless of her stated intentions. It was almost 4 hours long. Time alone doesn't necessarily say whether or not it was transformative, although it could be. What was, wait, is there a link to Denim's reaction to this? Like, I'm curious, when they say that it was 4 hours long, was this like an hour padded at the beginning and the end? Or was this actually like it started and then it took 4 hours to get through the hour-and-a-half video? Oh, re-upload.
Oh, 7. It's happening.
Launch.
That's the man.
Yes.
And most disturbingly, a complete white
defender
was calling me racist.
Oh,
you make
okay. I was just like pausing at the start of the
targeting the things and bad things.
Okay.
No, the zero updates on their health, whereabouts.
Here's while we're having this back
and now
there's a
That's honestly
there's a genocide going on.
Is I don't know what I don't know. And years ago.
Almost and say it's Israeli is the most insane thing to me.
Dude, the fact that they
is there to you? We realize no account
the Jews as inbred.
Number one. It's like I know like
what, how long was the content nuke? Was it an hour and a half? Hour and 42. Okay.
Take of H3. Here they're offering these streamers as market substitutes for my work. This is the cardinal sin of copyright infringement.
Yeah, but the copyright infringement for fair use, the market substitute situation, it doesn't turn on whether you want it to be a market substitute. Now that's probably really good evidence, and you'd probably lead in your brief, with that evidence. I'm not a fucking idiot, all right? So you definitely lead with that because it's really cool. But it's just not. The question is whether it is a market substitute, right? That's the real question. Not
for sure, but like all of these things are going to go towards the plaintiff's arguments for they knew it was, right?
Whether or not you intend it to be a market substitute. Although I will concede that's probably something that you lead the brief with because it's so delicious. And so I'm not telling you this isn't something that you would highlight in the brief for sure.
The Snark subreddit has been a frequent and persistent infringer. That's how I knew when this video came out, the Snarkers were going to encourage.
Okay, now how is the Snark subreddit doing copyright infringement? By copying links. Maybe they're aiding and abetting or something. I don't know. But just to be particular here, have they copied any of the copyrighted content? So I'm being very pedantic.
Urge, promote, and push streamers to commit copyright infringement. I should thank the Snarkers, actually. Because of their predictability, they acted like double agents for us, incriminating their favorite streamers and serving them up on a golden platter. So thank you.
Factually, it's very dramatic, though, so that's pretty funny.
It's one thing for a subreddit to admit it's
So when bars display UFC premieres, that would fall under the concept of market substance in a way. So the copyright, we went over about the elements of what grants you copyright infringement. Like what you need to have a work, right? You need to have authorship. It needs to be a creative work, minimally creative, very, 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 very low bar, minimally creative. It needs to be fixed in a tangible medium of expression. And at the point of fixation, the copyright protection attaches at the point of fixation.
Apparently, oh God, if I read too many Aaron comments, I'm going to lose my mind. Apparently, these streamers are linked directly to the Snark subreddit based on this post alone, but don't say that Ethan was working alongside the ADL. Did Ethan ever have any direct communication with the ADL, or what was the extent of that? My understanding is that these streamers all like read directly from the Snark and have like community members that are shared and everything. Is that the comparison that we're making here? What? Okay.
The separate question is, what are the rights under copyright? And if you go to the statute, the copyright statute, they list out all of the different rights. And there's a right to make copies, there's a right to make derivative works, there's a right to perform, a right to display. And so what these bars do is they buy licenses to perform the work. That's what the bars do. So all of the stuff at the like approved bars, the approved bars buy like licenses to show different. And there's a difference also, like if you buy a copy of a work, there's some kind of like limited right to show your copy to like some group of your friends. It's or some group. It can't be like the general public. It can't be like open access. And so there's all these like weird rules for publicly performing or displaying the work, because you're that's one of the rights where you're not making a copy. You're just performing or displaying. But now you could also be making a copy. And as in point of fact, the technology here would matter. Sometimes in performing the work, you're making a copy at the same time. You know, when aren't
you supposed to even buy licenses for playing music in restaurants? Yes. Although I think that has to do with commercial purposes and audience size. But like you wouldn't need to buy a license to play music for like a house party.
Reacting to this video, if this were infringement, it's fair use in my opinion. In this video, right, I'm making a copy if I were infringing, because I'm also recording this as a VOD on my like local hard drive, but also on the Twitch servers. So different rights can be at issue. The market substitute analysis has to do with fair use. That's where that analysis comes into play, not at the point of infringement. The first question is there even copyright protection?
True.
Right? Is this a work of authorship? Is there that minimal creativity? Is there fixation? Next question is there infringement? There's a split in some of the circuit split in some of the case law in terms of substantial copying, in fact, copying, legal copying, right? So there's a question of infringement. And then next, there's the question of fair use. So they're different questions. The market substitution analysis comes to the point of fair use. I hope that clears some things up. I should have clarified initially. This is something that the bar did not pay for the rights, right? If the bar did not pay for the rights, then they're violating the copyright of UFC, because they're having a public performance, and that's a right protected and given to the copyright holder. One of the exclusive rights, and we'll go to them so you guys can see what I'm talking about. You have the reproduction of copies or phonorecords, derivative works, distribution rights, in the case of literary, musical, dramatic, and choreographic works, and motion pictures and other audio-visual works, to perform the copyrighted work publicly. So when you perform it, right, every time you play the movie, you're performing it to yourself. So it's the right to perform it publicly. In the case of these other kinds of works, the display, right? So that could be considered, the performance and display are kind of go hand in hand. And then you have this like specific to audio sound recordings, right? So one of the rights protected here is the right of performance. And so for bars that want to perform the UFC fights, they need to get a license, because those bars are performing the works publicly.
Engaging in copyright infringement. But how do you get the streamers themselves to admit that they're stealing content?
So this whole thing about like, how do we get them to admit it? It's disingenuous. You don't need them to admit it. It doesn't matter if they admit it. Maybe it matters for how compelling your brief is, I guess. But the notion that it changes the underlying legality of it, I find to be disingenuous. It's a strict liability offense, strict liability cause of action.
Guys, if you enjoyed not giving any views to that terrible
God.
follow, subscribe, throw a prime.
Okay, but you do lead with that in the brief. Holy dumb.
If you like the content, if you enjoyed your time here.
It turns out they just do it for you. You couldn't cook up a more incriminating statement if you tried. Denims, the queen of self-owning, you prevail again.
Yeah, that's a big cell phone.
One thing about copyright you should know is that you got to register it before you publish to be eligible for statutory damages.
Right, so that's correct. So Ethan Klein appears to know something about copyright. So the copyright protection.
How compelling your argument is kind of fucking matters. Not really in this case. Pisco's right. You lead with this in your complaint because it looks good and it kind of roasts the opposition. But like you could theoretically say, just so you guys know, oh, like the big meme, no copyright infringement intended. That doesn't matter whatsoever. And you could also lead with I'm about to copyright infringe the out of this piece of shit, and then do the most like transformative work ever, and it's not copyright infringement or not. Technically, it has basically no bearing on whether, but like you would include it because a judge is going to read this, and arguments are going to go back and forth, and it speaks a little bit like it's like persuasive a little bit ish, persuasive ish, but strictly speaking, it's not really it has nothing to do with meeting the threshold of copyright infringement or not.
Exists at the time of fixation. So you don't need to register your works to get copyright protection. But you do need to register it if you want specifically statutory damages. They want to encourage you to register your work. There used to be, the copyright system used to be, you had to register all works that you wanted to have copyright protection. But then, so America was much less lenient than these other countries. And then to ascend to a bunch of like international treaties on copyright, America changed their laws to say, okay, now it appears at the time of fixation.
Why is Pisco treating a YouTube video like it is the court case? They're clearly for different audiences. I don't know. He's doing his lawyer analysis, I guess. I don't know.
But you still need to register in order to get statutory damages. If he's telling the truth, I'm assuming he registered the video, which would not be common practice for most creators to register in the Copyright Office.
Nope.
But that's kind of funny.
And attorney's fees, which is the main biting force of a copyright infringement lawsuit. Well, I'm happy to tell you guys now. I, Ethan Klein, have registered Hassan Piker Content New with the United States.
But like also, to be clear, also for like strict liability, even when we talk about criminal stuff, like, well, I should be careful because for civil stuff, whether or not somebody pursues it really just comes down to whether or not a plaintiff wants to file charges. But like for strict liability crimes, that's probably almost, I'm going to say almost certainly going to influence whether or not a district attorney wants to go after somebody, right? Like if there is some guy who is, 25 and he banged a 17-year-old who showed him a fake ID and somehow the cops arrest somebody or whatever, and then they found out like, oh, this girl showed you a fake ID and you had sex with him. Like statutory rape, I believe, is a strict liability crime. There is no excuse. Even if they showed you a fake ID, it doesn't matter. But my guess is going to be that, like, if a prosecutor is looking at this, they're going to be like, this is dumb. Like, either they'll plea him out or they won't even charge. Because, like, the fuck is the point? It's, like, generally speaking, now you're relying on the prosecutor not wanting to fuck you over or whatever. But, like, being malicious or states of mind or whatever would influence criminal stuff. But on civil stuff, it's up to whether or not you want to bring the lawsuit out. Now, the state of mind stuff possibly, while it won't help you in meeting the element for the crime or the element for the tort, and it won't matter for necessarily maybe a conviction unless a jury is persuaded. It might matter for awards or damages. If you can show the other person was acting like with huge malicious intent, then a jury maybe, I'm not aware of there being certain torts that you don't get secondary damages awarded for. My understanding is that can basically be awarded for anything, so.
It's Library of
Congress. Oh boy.
Some of you guys out there sweating? Even though theoretically I could sue a lot more creators.
Yep. So now he's trying to explain why he wouldn't sue others.
And rake in millions of dollars. But the purpose of this is not financial gain. People like XQC and Asmongold may have watched the entire thing, but I would never sue them just for doing that. I don't want to chill the reaction community into fear. Actually,
Whoa, that's bad faith too. Just be honest, Ethan. I mean, this is just bullshit. I get it. But you can't on the one hand say XQC is not malicious, XQC watches the whole video, and act like you're here protecting the reaction community by protecting reactions such as those by XQC, who doesn't give a fuck about infringement, right? So this is how Ethan would have you portray it, right? We're going to protect.
Ethan is not suing to protect or to like protect copyright for the entire community or whatever. I think Ethan is talking with a high degree of specificity about his particular lawsuit and who he's suing. So I don't think it's right to read this as a defense for all of XQC's reacting, because I don't think that Ethan was on the other side of that argument, I'm pretty sure, against XQC. I think Ethan is just speaking with specificity to his lawsuits. I don't know why Pisco keeps broadening this out to everybody.
XQC, now I don't know as much about Asmongold, I can watch that guy, but XQC's reaction content, that needs to be protected. I wouldn't want to chill XQC. Really? You wouldn't want to chill XQC? XQC, who you started the video by saying...
With regards to Ethan's particular copyright infringement lawsuits, with regards to Ethan's stuff.
He doesn't give a fuck about the copyright law? He doesn't care if he's breaking the law? Why wouldn't you want to chill that kind of thing? So this is what I take to be the bad faith. It's bad faith to suggest that the reason that you're pursuing these creators and not other creators is because of some substantial difference in the fair use factor, some substantial difference, and you're really doing this for the community and protecting some kind of reactions, the good reactions from the bad reactions.
I think Pisco has missed the point so far here. But I think he got set in this direction like 5 or 10 minutes ago. Copyright claims and contract suits in general do not have punitive damages and are typically limited to actual damages only. I'm aware of that for contract stuff. I thought tort stuff generally did have secondary damages that could come in. Is that not the case? Or does copyright stuff generally fall under, would it not be considered a tort? Is it contract? I'm not sure. Maybe they don't typically have secondary damages then.
That is not what's going on here, because XQC does not have good reactions. That is not at all what's going on here. Just be honest. You're going after these people because you don't like them. And that's your right as copyright holder. You know,
this is so wrong. Pisco's super conflating this. Like, if XQC would have reacted in the same way to his video as the others did, I'm pretty sure Hassan would, or I'm pretty sure Ethan would have no problem going after XQC, but he didn't. Ethan is very clearly and very obviously talking with specificity to his, I don't know how many times I can say this, but
you're a copyright holder. You do what you want to do, but just be honest. Just be honest. You don't like these people. You laid a trap for them. And that's what's going on. And I'll go even a step further. What Denham's just said there is a fucking self-own, and she's not upholding any kind of standard of reaction from what I can tell and what's going to be there that anyone should like, or that should be protected, or that we shouldn't say don't fuck around and find out. If you do that kind of reaction content, you should fuck around and find out. So I'm being fair and balanced. 100%.
Copyright isn't a contract, but it is all governed by federal statute, which limits damages to actual damages. Is that true? I don't think that's necessarily the case, right? Like, for instance, my wonderful court case is based on that first thing is a federal statute, but you can still also go for secondary damages there, right? That was my understanding. Or defamation or slander. Like, these are, I guess they don't have to be on federal, like the Alex Jones things. Let's see, secondary damages, punitive, Westlaw. Punitive damages are awarded in addition to actual damages in certain circumstances. Punitive damages are considered punishment and are typically awarded at the court's discretion when the defendant's behavior is found to be especially harmful. Punitive damages are not awarded in the context of are normally not awarded in the context of a breach of contract claim. So not contract. Tort is not contract. I'm pretty sure tort encompasses everything that's not a contract, right? For civil cause of action, I think. Punitive damages in tort law. In the case of tort liability, courts may choose to apply punitive damages. However, they will typically only do so if the plaintiff can prove that the defendant engaged in an intentional tort and or engaged in wanton or willful misconduct. An intentional tort is a type of tort that can only result from an intentional act of the defendant. Depending on the exact tort alleged, either general or specific intent will need to be proven. Common intentional torts are battery, assault, false imprisonment, trespass to land, trespass to chattels, and intentional infliction of emotional distress. For instance, in the case of Garrett versus Court. Okay, so that would mean that intentional tort is not strict liability tort, right? Because intent isn't required for a strict liability thing, neither general nor specific intent, right? Maybe, right? 17 USC 504. Remedies for infringement, damages, and profits. Except as always. Oh, this is about statutory damages that you can get if you've registered, I think, for a copyright or whatever. Control F, punitive. Control F, secondary. It's not in here, but the Supreme Court found that awarding punitive damages requires evidence that the defendant proceeded intentionally with an unlawful action after knowing that the act was likely to cause the injury. With regard to principal-agent relationship, courts are reluctant to award punitive damages on the principal for the reckless actions of the agent. One exception to this preference is when the principal encourages or causes the agent's recklessness. Okay, some contracts will liquidate. Okay. Applying punitive. Courts apply punitive damages on about 5% of verdicts. Recently, courts began to evaluate the appropriateness of assigning punitive damages. The amount of compensatory damages assigned.
But the XQC style reaction is also of that type. Now, you might add in the gloss where here, there's that additional kind of like, oh, I don't like you, Ethan Klein. I don't want you to make money. But to me, that is a distinction without a difference in terms of the fundamental fair use analysis. That doesn't really matter. On both sides of the ledger, what's really driving this is personal dislike and the other issues, not the nature of what's happening here. So this distinction, and I could already tell from how he started it, between XQC and these other people, doesn't pass the fucking smell test.
He's just so wrong. I don't know why or what he missed here, what happened. Or maybe he was reading chat. I read chat sometimes, but this is just completely off.
And it certainly isn't relevant for purposes of copyright infringement. That said, I think it's pretty it's pretty clear that there's an infringing malicious intent on behalf of Denims there. So that to me is pretty clear. And it's pretty funny that he registered for copyright protection, or sorry, for statutory damages.
The entire thing, but I would never sue them just for doing that. I don't want to chill the reaction community into fear. Actually,
that's so dumb. I don't want to chill XQC, the reaction community. Weren't you like hypercritical of XQC's reaction takes? Weren't you like saying he shouldn't do that? That was wrong to do?
Yes, because Ethan doesn't like how XQC reacts to things. But Ethan wasn't targeting XQC in this lawsuit because XQC didn't react in this way to his thing particularly.
That just is so laughable to me.
It would be laughable.
Okay,
it would be laughable, but that's not at all what he's saying.
I know. I thanked Ethan at the start of this video for the precedent, and I think he has been a principled fair use guy before. But don't fucking lie. Don't fucking lie to my face. You are trying to chill certain types of reactions from certain types of people. What you're trying to chill or go after are the people you don't like. But if someone had done—
That's a wildly dumb statement, but okay.
On this kind of like, yeah, you know, like—
If that was true, then why didn't Ethan name Hassan in one of these lawsuits? Because Hassan reacted to at least part of it, right? What was the difference between Hassan and the three named plaintiffs? I'm sure there were other people that reacted in part, at least, to it, or maybe in whole that he doesn't like as well. No?
Both sides, Andy. You guys are fucking so lame.
Hope that we can all unite against this type of egregious behavior that not only makes us all look bad, but could destroy the commentary community as—
Yeah, that's XQC. That's XQC. So there is a massive hypocrisy here. If you're like—
What is that? This is so crazy. Wait.
Besides, Andy, you guys are fucking so lame.
Hope that we can all unite against this type of egregious behavior that not only makes us all look bad, but could destroy the commentary community as—
Yeah, that's XQC. That's XQC.
Ethan has no standing to sue XQC. I don't understand what he's saying.
So there is a massive hypocrisy here. If you're like, we all need to stand up to this. This isn't about Israel-Palestine. We all need to gather together to defend the reaction community. Well,
no one is gathering together to defend anything. Ethan, I don't know how many more times I saw this. Ethan just named 3 defendants that he thought were egregiously violative of his copyright, which he has the right to do. And he gives a reason why he named those 3 and not anyone else. And that he thinks that creating a chilling effect isn't good in general. But he doesn't have standing to bring cases against XQC for anyone else. Like, where does this talking point keep coming from? That some dip said this, and all you morons are repeating this. Didn't Ethan repeatedly egg Hassan to watch the entire thing? Didn't Ethan, like, do you guys think that Ethan would have sued Hassan if he reacted to it and spent like 8 or 9 hours or whatever the fuck, or however long going over the whole thing in good faith? Like, some retard online said this, and you guys all copy it. I don't know where this talking point came from, but it's beyond stupid.
The people who, yeah, I agree. This kind of is bad for that reaction community because it's not fair use at all. But that also includes XQC. Let's not kid ourselves here. So any kind of delineation here that would be to, quote, protect the reaction community would have to include on the other side of the ledger XQC. But of course, Ethan would never sue XQC. And it's not because XQC...
What? That's such... What? I don't think Ethan likes XQC at all. Again, in their last debate, did they have a debate more recently than the copyright stuff? I tried to coach XQC on the other half of this, and XQC did the worm. What?
Would have to include on the other side of the ledger XQC. But of course, Ethan would never sue XQC. And it's not because XQC isn't infringing. It's because XQC is like more friendly with Ethan Klein. And anyone who denies that, I think, is denying reality.
That's just a delusional take. I don't know what if we're trying like really hard to both sides it or like be the epicentrist here, but that's just.
So spare me this. All right. So stupid. That said, these people who are doing the denims of the world, what are you doing? Why are you saying that? And also, probably infringement.
As we know it.
Well, guys, if you enjoyed not giving any views to that terrible video, follow.
Okay, but if he's not friendly with XQC, if he's not friendly with XQC, why doesn't he go after XQC? Because XQC certainly is not upholding.
Did XQC? Why does he keep saying this? Go after. He doesn't have standing to sue him on behalf of other people's copyright. Did XQC watch the entire content nuke or something? Maybe he did. Did he? Does anybody know? I don't even know if he did or not. Who's the best creator in those categories? He did, yeah, it was like 2 hours and 30 minutes. Actually, watched it, his whole thing uploaded to his channel. Oh, base, nice. I think he's just looking at it as every infringement should be pursued, and not just the worst ones if you care about fair use. So he doubts Ethan's belief in the law. He did, but it was a fair react comparison to the other reacts.
We're almost at...
Which, does he have it on his YouTube channel? Oh, here it is, thank you.
39 months, big boy. How about a welcome to the jungle?
He's a content goblin, of course he did. You guys keep saying of course, but I thought, didn't Asmongold, or am I mixing this up with something else? Didn't Asmongold wait like 2 weeks to watch this? I don't remember if XQC watched it or not, but okay, XQC did watch it. If this infringement has no intent, then what Dunhams and XQC did was exactly the same, right? From a legal standpoint, I'm too lazy to go through this whole thing, but I mean, from a legal standpoint, what XQC and Dunhams technically would be the same. Now I'm granting that this React was the same or as transformative as Dunhams. Now if XQC did something significant or like cut parts out of this or whatever, then you can make like a greater argument for XQC being transformative here. That being said, there's something I still think there's something to be said for acting with malice, maybe not in a strict like elements of the torts thing, but in terms of like people deciding to sue you thing. If you're doing something, especially something that's like a strict liability thing, like there's a difference between somebody saying, you know, like, oh, you fucked up or you shouldn't have done this. And the guy's like, oh, shit, yeah, sorry or whatever. Versus somebody who's like, I'm going to willfully and maliciously do this. Maybe not in the eyes of whether or not they have violated or given you the civil cause of action, but in terms of whether or not a plaintiff wants to pursue a case. I mean, like, that's absolutely true. And you also have absolutely the right to do that as well, you know? If Pisco getting stunlocked regarding Ethan's offhand justification is getting you mad, you should have seen Lycan and Strader. I'm looking at some of the Strader arguments. I don't know what the Lycan arguments are, but...
In this reaction content standard, whatever the line is unfair use, he starts the video by saying XQC doesn't give...
We'll just forget about all of that conviction before now. I said I wasn't sure if XQC had done the video or not or reacted to it, and then we went and we looked it up and he had done it. That's why my position is changing. You see how I kind of changed my mind based on the evidence presented rather than getting one idea in my mind and literally never changing my mind for the entirety of my life? Good job, buddy. You did it. Didn't you read earlier that statutory damages could be increased from $30,000 to $150,000 if the infringement was done willingly? Yeah, but those were under these were under like additional sections. I don't know how much these I don't know what the qualifiers are for this. I don't know where this part of the U.S. law comes from as well. But like if this is like part of something like a different larger thing that I need to be aware of. But in a case where the copyright owner sustains the burden of proving and the court finds that infringement was committed willfully, the court in its discretion may, so the infringement was committed willfully, the court in its discretion may increase the award of statutory damages to a sum of not more than $150,000. In a case where the infringer sustains the burden of proving and the court finds such infringer was not aware and had no reason to believe his or her acts the court in its discretion may award the statutory damages to a sum of not less than $200. Oh, okay. So this is for damages. Okay, so actually, okay, so a straight reading of this, unless there's other stuff around this that I'm not aware of, means that the intention of the person violating the copyright would matter insofar as assessing damages, and the damages would go up, would be capped at 150K, if I'm reading this correctly. I think a plain reading of this. Are you obligated to sue everyone who infringes? No, of course not. You understand Ethan purposefully entrapped them to target these specific people, right? Nobody made any of these people violate his copyright. Nobody forced them to do any of that. That's not entrapment. None of them had to do it here, and to verbalize it in the most egregious way possible. That's on you. That's just like, if you're doing it, that's all their actions on their own. Nobody made them watch a video.
Give a fuck about the standard. This is about the personal beef. Don't try to lie to me and say it's not. It's not about the essence of the fair use issue. That's not what's going on here. That's copium. That's complete copium. I agree. He doesn't need to fight everyone and sue everyone. No, I totally agree with that. And I'm not even saying that that affects the case. I'm not saying it's entrapment. I've said before, I think Ethan has been very principled about fair use.
I feel like it's very hard to disentangle the personal thing here from the who to go after legally, because it's like arguably the personal malice thing here, like I'm not using malice in a legal sense, but the personal hatred between the parties here is probably going to influence the underlying civil action as well, right? Like if you fucking hate Ethan, you're probably going to say more incriminating, stupid stuff, and you're probably going to act in a more improper manner. So it's going to be hard to disentangle the two, I would say. Strictly speaking, a tort is a common law cause of action. So any cause of action based in statute is not a tort and doesn't need to fit neatly into some flavor of tort. A tort is a common law cause of action. Does that mean necessarily any statute-based tort isn't a tort at all? What would you call that then? Just civil causes of action, or?
Used before. I started off by saying that, but don't pretend, right? When you say XQC, I'm not going to sue XQC because, of course, XQC is doing it the right way. Don't use that example then, right? You should have led with someone who did like this kind of, you should have led with like, I don't know, I guess Lonerbox doing a reaction of it. Or maybe there's a in-depth lefty content creator who is anti-Ethan Klein, but actually did it the right way. That's what you would do, right? You would say, this is the Lonerbox reaction to it. Obviously, I would never go after him. Or this is the pro-Palestinian who hates me, and I'm not going after him.
I don't understand how like buck broken these people's heads are. That does he think that Ethan has a better relationship with XQC than Lonerbox? I don't. Did I misunderstand what he just said there?
Ethan has been very principled about fair use before. I started off by saying that, but don't pretend, right? When you say XQC, I'm not going to sue XQC because, of course, XQC is doing it the right way. Don't use that example then, right? You should have led with someone who did like this kind of, you should have led with like, I don't know, I guess Lonerbox doing a reaction of it. Or maybe there's a in-depth lefty content creator who is anti-Ethan Klein, but actually did it the right way. That's what you would do, right? You would say, this is the Lonerbox reaction to it. Obviously, I would never go after him. Or this is the pro-Palestinian who hates me, and I'm not going after him because he did it the right way.
Like, I feel like Lonerbox and Ethan have a much better relationship than Ethan and XQC, unless I've missed a bunch of XQC Ethan content together or something. I don't know the assumption here. We're literally just looking at this like an Israel-Palestine thing, and we think that everything stems from that, but I don't know. Okay.
Which is, even though I don't agree, I think he's lying. I think that it's not infringement, but he didn't do that, right? He said, I'm not going to go after XQC. And that doesn't pass the smell test. It doesn't pass the fucking smell test. If he wanted to make the point of, oh, this is all principle for the reaction community, then he would pick an example of a lefty content creator or a critic who did it the right way, who he's not going after. But he picked XQC. When he started the video saying XQC doesn't give a fuck. So spare me. This, again, I don't think it affects the legal analysis at all. He starts off by saying, I'm going to set a trap. Set a trap for whom? Set a trap for these creators. That's what's going on here. You're just being pedantic. You guys are such copers. I'm giving you my honest take. I'm being completely fair and balanced. Utterly fair and balanced. I have no allegiance to these people.
That's what he's saying, that he shouldn't have used XQC as an example, but should have used someone he hates, but did the reaction in a way that doesn't have for sure. Yeah, no, I understand that. I just don't know why Lonerbox would be the go-to example there. Because I'm pretty sure Lonerbox is pointed out by a lot of these smaller communities as like an evil pro-Israeli Palestinian hater now. So it's just weird to use Lonerbox as an example there. I don't know.
People. I don't like these people. I'm just being real.
I throw Prime.
The state of reaction content on Twitch is so broken, these creators feel comfortable looking right into a camera and saying outright, hey, I'm stealing this guy's content. Pay me.
Destiny, come on. You have to admit that there is at least 6% of Ethan that did this just because of the harassment. For Ethan, I think that this is probably like 95% because of the harassment. Of course. Yeah, no. But bruh, if somebody hates you, and you obviously are doing stuff to be hated by the person, why would you give them a reason? Don't give the, what do you think Just give me a reason. What do you think that means? Yeah, of course. No
instead of him. This is not a healthy environment. And with people like Hassan reacting to entire TV shows on stream, my fear is that
this is what XQC was doing, right? He said, my fear is that Sony will do this. Yeah, this is all not what's going on here. He doesn't have this big fear of Sony and these other organizations clamping down on the broader community. Because if that was his fear, he wouldn't be going after Denims. He'd be going after XQC, who's a much bigger streamer. This all stuff, I don't believe.
Or Disney comes along, sues everybody, and sets a devastating precedent that could endanger our entire
Oh God, that is so laughable, dude. That's that part for me. And I came into this expecting to glaze the lawsuits and everything.
Like, to be clear, no ordinary U.S. citizen has any concept of what strict liability means. And I think it comes across, not to knock Ethan. Ethan maybe does know more about copyright or whatever than I do. I don't know. I can't tell by the way I listen to him talk about it. I don't know if Ethan is aware of what strict liability means, because he brings up malicious intent and all this a lot. It's the concept of strict liability, where you're guilty for a crime, regardless of whether or not you even knew you were necessarily committing the crime. A lot of people that's a very alien concept to people. So as a result of that, I don't think you should expect people to have this built-in understanding of malicious intent doesn't matter here. I would say the vast majority of human beings on the planet are going to be heavily driven by your malicious intent. And I think almost every person is going to look at that person and be completely and totally understanding. If there's some guy out there who re-uploads an entire like high effort, video that I make and release somewhere, and he just does it because he likes to rehost my content, and he's like clearly and obviously violative of my copyright in the most egregious way possible. And then there's somebody else there who just takes a 30-minute chunk and throws it somewhere, and they're like, I'm just putting this copy of this guy's content here to show you how fucking retarded this Destiny dipshit is. He's such an absolute moron. Like, this is the stupidest 30 minutes I've ever heard of any content in my entire life. 99% of human beings are going to look at these two situations and go, oh yeah, you're probably going to sue the second one, right? Now you can come back with a layer, well, technically it's a strict liability, so actually the intention and blah, blah, blah. Human beings don't function that way. These are civil cases, so you literally have to choose, you have to emotionally, normatively start from a place of, I want to sue this person, and then you go out and do it. Like, that's how almost every person on earth, probably even to some extent companies and everything else, are going to be driven like personally by how people are responding to this. Like, yeah. That whole rationale to me doesn't matter. Again, that has nothing to do with legal analysis, but he's trying to justify who he's suing and why he's suing them beyond just pettiness or beyond the fact that they said it in the most egregious way. Your justification for suing somebody is a human thing. It might have little to do with the law. You might just sue somebody because you fucking hate them. I've heard people do this, right? The idea that people's lawsuits are rooted principally in the constituent elements of some cause of action is delusional. People sue people because they fucking are upset and mad and pissed off and damaged in some way, and then they go and they file a lawsuit against them. Like, this is where lawsuits come from. Is broken feels. Justify who he's suing and why he's suing them beyond just pettiness or beyond the fact that they said it in the most egregious way. They were very blatant about them trying to steal money from me. That would be at least a principled reason to distinguish it. But don't sell me this whole, we need to protect XQCs. And we need to protect the culture that XQC promotes. That's what that to me is not true. That's not what's happening here. Anyone who thinks that's what's happening here is completely coping. And those of you who think that that's what's happening here, oh, I'm sorry to give you this heavy dose of reality. Well, I'm suing are. I just want to make it clear that they all met. Would it devastate his case? No, I don't think. I think this is like probably an open and shut case of infringement. I think it's very obvious infringement. I think it's funny that he registered it beforehand. I don't think anything is open and shut when it comes to infringement online, but he's probably generally correct. It's but I don't know how any of the online goes. I feel like this would be a hard case to defend, just reading the 4 factors, but I haven't read any case law. I think the important thing when you're talking about legal shit is to be able to point to a case, especially if you can point to one in the 9th Circuit. That's California, right? If you can point to circuit relevant cases on similar stuff, especially under the same cause of action, would be ideal. And then say like, oh, well, this other court ruled here, this other court ruled here. So California's 9th Circuit, right? Am I making this up? Circuits, Wikipedia. Why would I look this up? Circuits, law, appeals, United States, Wikipedia. Yes, 9th Circuit, okay. Maybe this is something I'm naive about, but doesn't the person filing lawsuits or claiming copyright have the ability to apply some level of discretion about who they are suing? Yeah. And what's more is, I don't even think Denims, I'm okay with him suing Denims. Why am I okay with him suing Denims at all? Because I think this kind of reaction content is. Do you think that Pisco is pedantically hedging with XQC to try and appeal to lefties? I don't know anything about that. I don't care about that. I mean, like, what Pisco is saying is correct in a strictly legal sense, I think, assuming the XQC reaction or whatever is just as transformative or less than Denims. In the strictly legal sense, it might be correct. But I think it hardcore misses where these lawsuits are coming from and where almost all like civilian to civilian lawsuits probably come from in the United States. Now, maybe when it comes to like corporate law, companies are going to be more dispassionate and are just going to be doing the strict legal analysis, but
potentially a problem in the future. I think people should, as a principal matter, do a kind of real substantive fair use. I don't even have a problem with him suing Denims at all. So you guys have got me all wrong. Not that I care. I'm not here to pander to you fucking idiots. He would have the same case if he didn't register, but he registered before to get statutory damages. I don't even have a problem with him going after Denims because it is egregious. It is fucking probably super obviously infringement, and the legal case is probably incredibly strong. But I'm just saying, like, don't sell us, oh yeah, this is all principle to protect from Disney and Amazon and all these guys because we need to, these are the worst of the worst infringers when you have XQC on the other side of the ledger.
Very specific high bar of criteria that I set forth earlier. These people were not targeted based on their gender, their identity, their political beliefs. All three are on the list. In fact, they're the only three, as far as I could tell, that reacted to the full video. Drum roll, please. Who's
lol? So these weren't picked because of their ideology. So this is what you would have us believe. This is what you'd have us believe. I'm not saying all of you guys.
The ideology, I think it has way more to do, but I guess everything has to do with like Jews and shit now, I guess. So we're just going to call it all ideology. But okay.
That's right, chill. All right, it's early. That if they did the same exact thing, but they were pro Ethan Klein, you would go after them. Although the thing is, the essence of why he's doing it is the intent to take money away from.
Pro Ethan Klein is not an ideology, but
Ethan Klein almost necessitates you to like disagree with Ethan Klein, I guess. I don't know. It's just kind of silly.
In fact, they're the only three, as far as I could tell, that reacted to the full video. Drum roll, please. Who's sweating at home, guys? Casey Tron, the queen of ripping farts and bong loads.
These are musicals. They're very musical people. I know,
oh my God. She okay?
What, look, you think I made this?
Rogan, who bless her soul, she's still rising.
Can I walk away and use the bathroom? Do I have permission? Can I use the bathroom, please? I'll leave it playing.
Apparently included liable for me interviewing a teenager who's only known genocide his entire life.
Yeah.
And Denim's infringement of self-owning. And my God, is she the queen of that?
It's very obvious from the way that guy's talking. He's a Sneeko fan.
Oh my God, bro, I love you. I'm
so sweet, bro.
I love you, bro.
None of the hostages that have been released so far have said that they've been. The hostages have public statements. You can go look at them.
Oh my God, cringe.
Should never happen to any human being.
This Yemeni kid is just a Yemeni kid with a gun and is not a Houthi, and there is no proof of him being a Houthi.
Are you a soldier? Yes. That seems pretty definitive.
He never said Hassan Nasrallah was a good guy.
I can't believe I'm calling Nasrallah based. I mean, listen.
Now for the fun part. Let's take a look at the complaints, and let's start with my favorite of the three, the very own, the prestigious, the highly acclaimed, the highly analytical Casey Tron.
A lot of people have been wanting to watch this without necessarily supporting Ethan Klein. So we're going to watch it.
What an
That's
idiot.
a really dumb thing to say, don't you think? Why are you so comfortable? We've given each complaint a clever little title, and here's Casey Tron's. She smoked more than she spoke. Casey Tron smokes 42
Did they put that in the filing?
And just as a silly thought experiment, we thought, wouldn't it be funny if she spent more time smoking than she did talking? And thinking there was no way that that could be true. Well, we tallied them up, and lo and behold, there's 15 minutes, 40 seconds of commentary.
Wait, chat. Did they put that in the file? Unhinged. No, this isn't the filing, right? Where did they put this? Yes, they did. Holy shit.
the inline images and everything have for the filing are pretty funny.
Unhinged.
Unhinged.
But also hilarious.
Probably unhinged. It is unhinged.
Well, we tallied them up, and lo and behold, there's 15 minutes, 40 seconds of commentary versus 18 minutes and 55 seconds of smoking. She spent 3 minutes and 15
But why
seconds.
do that? Just why are you making a meme filing? Just have the real filing.
Her quote-unquote reaction. And whatever talking she did was just to express how confused she was, presumably from smoking 42 times.
What is happening? I'm trying to follow. I've lost the plot.
The complaint continued.
Is that a problem for if the filing has memes in it? I don't know. I don't know how much. I don't think judges even read that much of these things until you're having like hearings on or whatever. As long as the stuff that needs to be there is there, it's probably fine. But
indeed, Casey Tron is often
maybe there are some judges that like hate memes, and maybe there's some judges that like them. I don't know.
Who obliterated to comment?
What? No way. This is who wrote this? Who filed this? Casey Tron is often too obliterated. They should put scare quotes there or something. That is inappropriate. Unbelievable. Unhinged. This is a legal filing. They put, quote, indeed, Casey Tron is too obliterated to comment on the nuke. She smokes marijuana frequently in a highly concentrated form through a vaporizer. Wild.
And on the nuke. And instead stares blankly.
I don't like this, where they say here, at one point, Casey Tron is so wasted that she states wasted generally means alcohol. I've never heard somebody say wasted in reference to marijuana. So I don't know about the factual matter of the complaint there, but
At her computer screen. In a span of 2 hours and 7 minutes, Casey Tron smokes marijuana, frequently in highly concentrated forms through vaporizers, on 42 separate occasions. At one point, Casey Tron is so wasted that she states, quote,
wasted.
I'm trying to follow, but I
just this terminology to me is not professional. Unless it's in scare quotes or they're referencing something. I find that to be not professional, but that's just me.
Lost the plot. To give you an idea, the majority of her commentary comes down to this.
Should have
I don't understand this that he's doing.
Toke Surge.
He's read more books than you could ever imagine.
CPM's coming.
So they counted the number of times she smoked and compared it to the amount of time she was talking. I think that's actually pretty. I'm not against that. I think that's more professional to do than to use those specific terms. I don't have a problem with them doing that.
What the hell is going on?
He's read more books than you could ever imagine.
What is happening? I'm trying to
I also don't understand why people get high on stream or do drugs on stream.
It's called addicted.
I think that's cringe too.
lost the plot.
Look up the definition. It says drugs. I don't think I've ever in my life heard somebody say, oh my God, I got so wasted last night. You're like, oh, really? Like, where'd you guys go? Oh no, I just smoked so much weed in my apartment. You got wasted? Yeah, I got wasted on weed, bruh.
They do musicals. They're very musical people. Are you being serious? Dog, look, you think I made this?
Do I expect this filing to go against Ethan? No. I think they're all infringing his content pretty plainly. One, the stated intent doesn't matter, strictly speaking, but people are right that it's indicative of the mindset for purposes of running the fair use in terms of like what we expect their conduct to conform to. And it's just a great line with the fact that like, if you don't want to get money to Ethan Klein, you can watch it here. It just is emblematic of the mindset, which is embodied by the fact that it's not transformative, right? It's objectively not transformative. And the line just encapsulates that. So
objectively not transformative. Again, that's a difficult one. I don't know what the standard is for React stuff to be transformative. I think that's a really hard one. Like, who knows? Like, who knows?
Yeah, I don't think that there's good cases of fair use here. I think that there are good cases of infringement here. They're violating the right to reproduce, to make a copy, violating the right to perform, violate the right, arguably, to make derivative works. A Casey Tron style video, I don't know. Maybe Vape God, Vape Nation could make this kind of video.
This is a music video.
And as dumb as all that is, this is the part that really got her sued.
A lot of people have been wanting to watch this without necessarily supporting Ethan Klein, without necessarily supporting.
Intent doesn't really matter for the elements of infringement. It's a strict liability offense. It is strict liability. So even just I understand, I want to stress all the time, you do include those statements in your brief. Those statements are very helpful for all of the atmospherics. They're helpful also as an encapsulator, but it's not an element of infringement.
It will personally motivate the out of you, though, to sue somebody. If you really want to get sued, then you got to be a huge bag. And even if that's not part of the whatever they're suing you for, it will push people to sue you more. It absolutely will.
It could worm its way into the fair use analysis in some ways.
Oh, okay. And he is hitting this now. That's good. Yes. Depending upon how you're, because the 4-factor stuff, these are not hard line rules. Like, these are going to be debates between parties and then ultimately decided by a judge. And they're going to have to weigh different factors subjectively against each other. And statements like that cut against you might ultimately push it one way or another if it's a really close balancing test, you know? For example, I would have never watched The Nuke or his latest one if Destiny didn't. The streamer was the transformative content in my perspective as a viewer. It's super vague. Technically, in my opinion, I think the funniest thing is that I feel like highly transformative content, I actually feel like highly transformative content is actually more damaging and a greater substitution than the original piece, which is funny, I think. Like, if there was an hour-and-a-half YouTube video and I were to watch 30 minutes of that for chat without saying anything, and then I say, I don't want to watch the rest of this and leave, I think that would create less of a substitution than if I were to do a highly transformative 7-hour React, which is a little bit ironic, I think, because the first one, it would be more copyright infringing. Because there's never, ever been a case. I'm sure there's been plenty of cases where I've watched like 20 minutes of video on stream, like, this is boring. And people are like, oh no, Lincoln, I want to watch the rest. Whereas if I watch like a 30-minute video and it takes me like 2 hours to, get through all of it, nobody's like, okay, now I want to go back on my own time and watch for the 30-minute video, right? Like, but in that case, we're not. Hopefully, we've engaged in something transformative, it's not a copyright infringement, etc. But it does create a greater substitution, I think, than the original. Well, no, actually, I'm using that incorrectly. It doesn't create a substitution of the original because the work you've created now as a transformative work is something new that's not necessarily a replacement of the original, I think. No. Is the 4-factor test is to determine if the work is transformative? No, it's not. No, it's just, no, that's not necessarily true. Because like like an educational reproduction for something could not be transformative, but still not be copyright infringement because of the 4-factor bullshit or something, right?
There's just not an element of infringement. And so the whole, like, we need to define this line for them to show and prove the infringement. Like, no, XQC is infringement. And it's just part of like my main critique so far. In general, I think a lot of this is funny. A lot of I don't have a problem at all with him suing these creators for infringement. I actually think it's probably good, but I also think it would be good to do it against XQC. Oh, I was gonna say something. Denims et al. Are also not upholding a reaction tradition that matters. They're not upholding some reaction culture. So to the extent that Ethan is claiming he's defending the reaction culture, I think he's like, I don't know if he's lying. He's certainly wrong about that. But to the extent that Denims et al. Are saying that they're protecting some worthwhile reaction culture, they're also wrong about that. And I hate to do the both sides of something, but that's just my opinion.
Ethan Klein. So we're gonna watch it. What the fuck is going on here?
Stating outright that her intention is so that people who don't want to support me can watch.
Is going to establish like bad precedent. So don't like, it's just this muddled explanation to try to justify what we already know, right? And what we already know is he's suing these people because he wants to, because they're the biggest assholes to him and he hates them and he's trying to set a trap for them. That's
well, the outside of court justification here shouldn't matter as much as what actually shows up in the complaint, right? Now, maybe he might have put this in the complaint, to be fair. I didn't read. It was like 80 pages, so maybe he did put this in, but
that's what's going on here. It's not this big principled stand on fair use. That's just what's not going on here. It's not to defend the reaction community. I can't, like, that to me is so bizarre that anyone would believe that. I'm not saying he needs to sue everybody. No one's saying that. But don't try to sell me a justification that doesn't pass the smell test. That's all I'm saying. I'm not telling you, oh, if you sue one person, you have to sue every single infringer. No, that's stupid. That's dumb. You sue the people who you hate the most, who are the worst infringers, who are people who want to hurt you. Yeah, that's fine. But don't tell us this is a principled stand for the purpose of protecting the reaction.
Okay. I disagree with how he's using the phrase, this is a principled stand. But I think I agree with the substance of what he's saying. This is, Ethan's lawsuits here have less to do with the motivation to protect copyrighted content versus punishing people that are clearly violative of his copyright. I think he's very clearly in the right when it comes to the copyright defense. But the primary motivator here is quite obviously the fact that these people act like actual ghouls.
Community. That's not true. I'll take a quick peek at the final. This is
take it to these three absolute morons to state their intention to steal my property on video. You know, and to all the detractors who are saying that I'm targeting women, that I'm a hypocrite for suing for copyright infringement.
Did he only
have this to say?
Did he only sue women?
I don't care. What I do hope, though, is that you'll support their crowdfunding efforts to defend themselves. Because let's face it, I want to make sure there's money left over for me when I win my lawsuits.
You don't care about whether you're a hypocrite? So this is what he starts with, right?
Yeah, but is Ethan even saying that his motivation was protecting the React community? It feels like it's reminding me. Yeah, this feels more like a secondary thing. Like it, which I don't know how I would even explain this. Like imagine you know that there are some people talking shit. And also, let's say that you know there are some people, let's say you know there are some 20-year-olds talking shit and drinking alcohol. And you know they go to the same place every day to talk shit. But they're also drinking booze at the same time. And you know this. And one day, you decide to mosey on down there. And guess what? They're talking shit again. And they're all fucking drinking booze. All right? And let's say there are some other people around there and you see them drinking booze too. And then you're like, okay, well, these guys are talking shit. And they're drinking booze. These guys are going down. I'm calling the cops. And then you say, well, now, to be clear, principally, I don't want to just like f people over necessarily just for underage drinking, right? 19, 20-year-olds drink is whatever, you know? So I'm not going to call the cops and like rat out every single person here. I'm just going after these 3 people. Okay. So in that case, I think there's like a weird, how do you say this? Like they're being fucked over for legally for underage drinking. The big impetus for doing this though is because these people are with them personally, but you can still have a principled stance about who you target with this type of thing, in that you don't want to go after people that are, you know, just drinking or whatever, right? I don't know if that makes sense. That's what I guess. But you can try to, I guess, limit your attacks to people that you feel are, I guess, worth attacking, so you don't create some chilling effect or whatever. But yeah,
very clear visual here for this stuff. Which do you think XQC more falls in the camp of, the top or the bottom? Bro, I want to support you, but these forced attempts at nuance are too painful. Bro, what are you talking about? I'm giving you my real take. If you don't like it because you just want me to what, regurgitate your opinion at you? That's what you want me to do. Damn. Regurgitate for you what you believe. And not actually challenge you and give you my actual take. It's definitely the bottom. And let's see, what does Ethan call the bottom type of video, actually?
Now, understandably, this made a lot of people angry, because why should these content thieves, essentially, get more views than the author of the video, which in a lot of...
So he's adopting this position. He's calling them content thieves. People who do the bottom, he's saying, this makes people mad, right? This is content thieves. He's calling this situation thievery, the people who do the bottom. And we just acknowledged that XQC fits the bottom.
What cases was happening? I mean, people don't like injustice, and we all see this in notes.
He calls it injustice. He says people who do the bottom, what we just...
But it can be an injustice, but also still be personally motivated. These two things don't conflict with each other whatsoever, right?
Told you. Where we know that's what XQC does. He called it, quote, an injustice.
All right. This debate culminated when XQC, one of the prime suspects, called into my show.
He calls XQC one of the prime suspects. That is to say, because we all know it, he does that shit. He is a purveyor of that injustice. One of the prime suspects of people doing this kind of shit is XQC. All right. And I'm following Ethan this entire time. You can scroll back to this video and say, yeah, Ethan has this history, this pattern. He's based. I believe him when he says this stuff. And I've seen him debate XQC on it. So up to now, I think Ethan Klein is completely based and correct. And I think that this is true.
To debate me, in which case I'm sad to report that I was terribly owned. So in that regard, do you care at all about like IP or copyright?
Do you care at all about IP or copyright?
Or like the fact that it's illegal? Does that matter? That it might be illegal, does that matter to you?
No.
It doesn't matter.
No.
Well, it flat out doesn't, because...
It flat out doesn't matter to me what the law says, whether I'm stealing or not.
Watch me full screen cam, do the warm, and watch your plan. Then watch the plan content.
Do a week of no reaction content and see how many views you get.
And this is him, Ethan, because it is his belief that this guy is a thief, and this whole reaction comes out of this debate.
Oh, okay, sure. I mean, that's content, man. It's original content, at least. The ultimate debate, bro. He hit him with the worm.
And he's criticizing XQC. And I'm with Ethan this entire time, watching the video. Yeah, based.
Why did I think of that first? I kid XQC, but he is not the one I'm suing, despite my...
So he's like, all right, he disagrees with him, but I'm not suing him.
Criticism, he's not a malicious infringer, but the ones...
He's not a malicious infringer? So he's purveying injustice. He's a prime suspect, but he's not malicious? I'm sorry, what? Absolute dog water. No one...
Well, again, I don't know if Ethan necessarily understands the strict liability portion here. It's pretty obvious what Ethan is saying. I'm circling back to what I said before. When Ethan is saying malicious, now maybe Ethan is mistaken in that the maliciousness, he thinks it's a part of the crime or whatever. Although it did seem like, unless there's a different reading of this, it did seem like a plain reading of 17 USC 504 shows that if you are committing this infringement willfully, that the statutory damages go from a $200 minimum up to a $150,000 maximum. And if XQC legitimately thinks he's, acting in a way that is fair or whatever, then he doesn't get this guaranteed 150K. However, if he wins the case and gets a jury to agree that there was copyright infringement here and they can't defend it with fair use, well, now we've got statements from them saying we're literally violating, core aspects of copyright. So they're almost guaranteed to bump the statutory cap up to 150K. So there's a lot more money that you can get from these people. I mean, in that sense, it does matter. Now, I don't even know if Ethan is thinking that far ahead to this, but
believes that
it's pretty obvious that Ethan is what Ethan is saying here. I think Peace was being a little bit too pedantic on this, just on this part.
He's not malicious. I'm sorry. What? Absolute dog water. No one believes that. If that is not malicious, I don't know what is. I don't care if I'm stealing or not. IP, the law, and you've heard him say much worse than that. He's not a malicious infringer. Well, then everything you said about
even that, the IP, the law, doesn't necessarily most people, if you give that statement a fair reading, would agree that that doesn't necessarily make you malicious in the same way, right? There's a huge difference between, maliciously damaging somebody through copyright infringement versus just saying oh, I don't really care much about the law. These are two, you can even argue one might be negligence, or more or worse, gross negligence or willful recklessness. I don't know. But there is a difference, right?
Injustice here. No one can believe you. You called this an injustice. Hang on. You called this an injustice. You said it was an injustice. He purveys the injustice. He doesn't care that he's doing it. And that's not malicious. He's not a malicious infringer. That is complete bullshit. And then, where does he do it? Let's see.
People like Hassan reacting to entire TV shows on stream. My fear is that Sony or Disney comes along, sues everybody, and sets a devastating precedent that can endanger our entire field. Now,
that's his fear. His fear is that Disney and Sony come in and do a lawsuit that with all of their rights. That's what he wants you to believe. So you tell me, what is more likely to trigger a lawsuit from Sony or Disney? The kind of shit that XQC does, or the kind of shit that Frogan et al. Just do? You tell me. XQC is bigger. XQC reacts to more mainstream stuff. That alone. So if you were actually concerned with the state of the reaction community and fear of chilling lawsuits from these big bad guys, we would be trying to police our own, the worst offenders. And the worst offenders absolutely includes XQC and friends. And owned, all you guys. Destroyed, demolished. That said, these people are very clearly infringers. Let's take a look at the lawsuit real quick. I don't have a problem with him suing them at all.
If this lawsuit was only done for the purposes of protecting copyright, if that was the sole reason, then I think I would agree. But I would have to rewatch Ethan's video to see if that's the only reason he gives. It's pretty obvious that the majority of this is driven by the fact that these people are incredibly antagonistic towards Ethan.
Oh, they actually included the nightmare on Denham Street. This is, oh my God. It's funny, but it's cringe. This lawsuit is about ending the practice of lazy reaction videos. Dude.
Lycan Cooks doesn't invalidate copyright, but precludes enforcement during a period of misuse. My read is that intent to get a reaction prevents enforcement, but in the future he could enforce. Intent to get a reaction. I don't know what he ChatGPT'd for this interpretation. However, intent to get a reaction, making content that people will react to whatever he's talking about would never qualify here.
Okay, so complete vindication for me. That's not what this lawsuit's about. That's not what this lawsuit's about. So I'm completely vindicated. He is pretending to be a savior. He has a savior complex. It's the first sentence. So everyone can absolutely give me props for being completely right. If that's what this lawsuit was about, you would say, I'm not suing XQC because the cases are better against him, but XQC is part of the problem, right? You don't even have to sue XQC. I'm not even saying sue.
I don't get why this is so complicated. Ethan has his problems with fair use and how YouTube handles copyright. He's worried he might set a precedent, legally or otherwise, of people going after people just because they dislike them. He set the bar at maliciously harassing people, trying to prevent them from earning money. In Pisco's world, he would have gone after the whole Reddit list just out of spite. Maybe. The issue is that I think Pisco is trying to make it sound like the copyright fear is the primary driver of Ethan's lawsuit. And maybe if I rewatched Ethan's video, maybe that is what Ethan is communicating. And I just know that's obviously not true. If Ethan is saying that, I just wouldn't believe him. However, it sounds like what Ethan is saying is that these people have been obviously harassing the fuck out of him, and there is a legal way that he can go after them, but he wants to be careful about how he sets the bar for that legal behavior because he doesn't want to create a bad standard of going after people just for copyright infringement for no good reason or whatever that haven't, met that threshold.
Do XQC. I'm saying you have to identify XQC as part of the problem. You can't say XQC is not part of the problem. You have to say XQC is part of the problem. Over 7 years ago, the owners of Plaintiff TED Entertainment established a legal standard for fair use reaction videos and Hassan dies. Yeah, we really appreciate that. TED Entertainment. As a genre, reaction videos vary widely. Bro, where are the pin sites? Where are the pin sites? You don't pin site the quote? Uh-oh. That's going to trigger me. Reaction videos like the client video that interpose short segments.
Wait, where are we at?
You don't pin site the quote? Uh-oh. Genre, reaction videos vary widely. Bro, where are the pin sites? Where are the...
What does a pin site mean? Is that when you do like id and then you like reference a document or whatever back in the thing you referenced before? Or what does pin site mean for legal filings? Pin site. The specific page in the case that the citation is for. Okay, gotcha.
Pin sites. You don't pin site the quote? Uh-oh. That's going to trigger me. Reaction videos like the client video that interpose short segments, emphasis added, constitute fair use. Wait a second. Where's the pin sites? So the citations, they're not blue booking. Did they italicize this period? I can't tell. If not, point deducted. The problem here with having this is you don't know what's emphasis added, what's not, right? Is emphasis added just for...
Doesn't him saying what he said and his beef with the three he's suing open him up to retaliation claims / bad faith use of copyright law? I mean, it's not bad faith use if they legitimately violated his copyright, though.
This is emphasis added just for that. So really, really citations in terms of the format of the citations, in my opinion. This case involves a group viewing session hosted by defendants. I agree with that. The moderators heavily promoted this. Yes, true. Badly formatted footnote. They profited, like most lazy reaction videos, peppers a group with primarily brief and sporadic observations. They'll watch long, unadulterated portions of the works to give surface level. That's a good citation. I like this. Other times, Denham's commentary has little to no critical bearing on the style or substance of the works. Wait, the works include what, actually? The works include the content, nuke, and then the show episode. Got it.
Are you allowed to only go after people you dislike legally? Yeah, sure. Is Pisco trying to imply Ethan has lawyers? Maybe. I mean, there's like ways to format legal docs, and like legal formatting is not like it's like you're not writing PhD theses. I think you can formatting stuff here. I think is important. I think it shows something, right? It's like showing up with an iron shirt or something to a meeting.
On the rare occasion when Denham does provide sporadic or brief commentary, she spreads misinformation that is refuted. Okay, that's not relevant, but I guess part of the story. On the rare occasions when she actually shows the factual basis for a claim or statements are refuted by the side.
Okay, I probably mostly agree with this. I feel like some of the focus is wrong, but I think I probably mostly agree with that. I know reading comprehension isn't your strength, but I literally say multiple times in my post video that I agree that videos are infringing, probably not fair use. It's even possible to find a case that would be more clear-cut. I think selling bootleg Avengers DVDs on the street would be safer. At least that isn't done with explicit malice on release day. Publicly stating you know it's illegal, but YOLO. Probably not fair use is a correct statement. And in my stream, I used stronger language. That said, there are plenty of examples, including bootlegging, which would be more clear-cut, not fair use. Which probably isn't real. You probably can't shapeshift into a dinosaur. The world probably isn't filled with a cheddar, cheese, molten core. This case deserves a stronger statement. Therefore, would suffice. Unhinged is not a euphemism. It's a reflection of the inherent unpredictability of lawsuits and fair use specifically, where all we go on really are case law analogies. Sorry you were triggered. I didn't use your magic words. So, damn, got him. Generally, one of the biggest things, or I guess criticisms that I generally have of people are usually selective criticism or selective application of things. It's very hard for any lawsuit to say like this is like clear cut or 100%. Although probably not fair use. You could probably make a stronger statement than that. It is almost certainly not fair use. But I do think it's interesting to hedge so much on this lawsuit, but to be 100% absolutely certain that Hassan was discriminated against with zero evidence whatsoever presented of that. There was literally nothing to show that he was pulled aside because of his political perspective. Even Hassan didn't even necessarily allege evidence of that. So it's kind of interesting to be selectively strong on some things and then like fair and balanced on other things. Would you debate Pisco? The thing is it would be a meta debate. Like, I don't think I necessarily disagree with anything Pisco has said. The odd thing is just the fixation on what he's fixated on. We might just read the whole complaints today. I feel like I should. The complaints do look very memey and incredibly unprofessional. But I mean, like, it's a complaint. You can put whatever the fuck you want in it, technically. I mean, obviously. Seems like he's fixated on that part because there's not much else to talk about in regards to it. What do you mean? I mean, you can talk about the substance of what it's about if you want to talk about it, no? Judges don't like the meme shit, though, right? Every single person on the planet, regardless of profession, will always over-select for their own personal experience. Even doctors aren't immune to this. I've seen, there are some lawyers on the internet I've seen that say, you know, judges like it when stuff is memey and fun, as long as it's not disrespectful, because it's a little more interesting to read. Other people say judges hate this because it's disrespectful and rude. I'm sure it just probably depends. My guess is going to be that the majority of federal lawsuit filings are barely even read, but I don't know if the judges even read them or if they have a clerk that'll just go over it. You might not even read it until a response is submitted. And then once the response is submitted, You might not even read the response unless somebody files for a motion to dismiss, and then you might do a quick reading of it to see if the elements of the thing are met. And then I doubt that there's like a hardcore reading, like from start to finish by a judge until the case gets further along, since most cases don't survive. I don't even know if most cases survive the pleading stage.
How's the lawsuit going?
What is this?
How's the lawsuit going? Nowhere, because Ethan Klein's too much of a sue me because he knows he'll lose. I love these people though that are like, any day now, he's going to sue. He's going to sue. Chat, just a reminder, by the way, just a reminder, after he paraded on the internet about how he was going to sue me and he wanted to sue me, guess what? Still no lawsuit. Oh my God, he's so made. I'm actually pretty certain that his lawyer told him to stop going after me. His lawyer most likely said, dude, like, you need to stop. Like, you actually need to stop. Whatever, you think I'm an idiot, you think I'm the dumbest person alive, that's fine. Go read the lawsuit. Maybe if you don't want to respect me, you can go respect a judge and a lawyer. How's the lawsuit going?
Rip. I guess maybe we'll read one of these. I don't think I read all the lawsuits, but I'll read one of these complaints from Ethan, I guess. All right. This is Ethan Klein's complaint against, the first one is Denims. I'm only going to go over one of these complaints. These things are absurdly long, 80 pages. Is it going to be live streamed? I don't know yet. I'm not sure 100%. We'll see. The Nightmare on Denim Street. We've got crazy inline images and everything. Okay. Quote, we're relying on you to stay live so we don't have to give the nuke views. Yeah, I'm going to stream it. Since he's confirmed it's coming out today, I'm going to stream it. End quote. Denims, prior to reacting to Content Nuke, Hassan Piker. Well, guys, if you enjoyed not giving any views to that terrible video, give me a follow, subscribe, throw a prime if you like my content. Denims after reacting to Content Nuke, Hassan Piker. Introduction. This lawsuit is about ending the practice of lazy reaction videos that copy entire copyrighted works and purposefully siphon views and revenue away from the original. Over 7 years ago, the owners of Plaintiff Ted Entertainment Inc., TEI, Ethan and Ela Klein, established the legal standard for fair use reaction videos in Hosenzadeh v. Klein. As a genre, reaction videos vary widely in terms of purpose, structure, and the extent to which they rely on potentially copyrighted material. Reaction videos, like the Klein video, that intersperse short segments of another's work with criticism and commentary constitute fair use. In contrast, reaction videos that are more akin to group viewing session do not. To a group viewing session, do not. Sorry. This case involves a group viewing session hosted by defendant Alexandra Marwa Saber. That's a sick last name. FKA. Does that mean formerly known as? So name change? Marwa Talat Abdulmanem, and then PKA would be primarily known as Denims or Denims. Denim specifically intended her group viewing session to siphon views and revenue away from TEI's copyrighted works, Content Nuke is on Piker, The Nuke, and the H3 Show 105 Countdown to Doomsday, collectively, the works. Denims timed her group viewing sessions to coincide with the exact moment TEI released the works. Her timing was intended to capitalize on the intense public interest in the works and siphon the maximum amount of views and revenue away from the works to herself by showing the works in their entirety, or nearly in their entirety. Doesn't the goofy names hurt the credibility in the eyes of the court? Goofy name. These are her real names, right? And then whether or not you choose to, I think that doing business as names or like DBAs or is probably fine, I guess. I mean, this is what people are known as. The moderators of the H3 Snark subreddit, the H3 Snark mods, heavily promoted Denim's group viewing sessions as an alternative to the original works on the H3 Snark subreddit, H3 Snark. As a direct result, Denim's group viewing sessions of the works peaked at approximately 45,800 views when her previous stream only achieved approximately 3,300. Introducing the concept of a named subreddit here, I feel like that's a lot. This is like a very technical thing to just throw in a complaint at the start without explaining what Reddit is, explaining what a subreddit is. I feel like it's a little bit, okay. Like most lazy reaction videos, Denims peppers her group viewing session of TEI's works with primarily brief and sporadic observations, which can be categorized as follows. Most frequently, Denims will watch long, unadulterated portions of the works and briefly pause to give short, surface-level, and often repetitive observations that provide little to no new information, new aesthetics, new insights, or understandings on the original works. Other times, Denim's commentary has little to no critical bearing on the style or substance of the works. Rather, she goes off on tangents regarding unrelated subjects or shadowboxes demonstrably false misinterpretations of the contents of the works. This last one is a very free speechy thing. I don't like this in here. Whether or not you think that it's a false misrepresentation or it feels like fundamentally different type of thing, but okay. There were occasions when Denims does provide sporadic and brief commentary on the style or substance of the works. She spreads misinformation that is refuted moments later by the works themselves or by the most cursory level of research. On the rare occasions where she actually shows the factual basis for claim, her statements are refuted by the cited source itself. Such misinformation fails to serve copyright's goal of enriching public knowledge. To the contrary, such misinformation diminishes it. Okay. I don't know why we'd have a misinformation thing related to a copyright infringement claim. Finally, Denims will even do an empty chair reaction as shown above, where she goes off camera for an extended period of time while letting the video play to keep her audience entertained. The poverty of Denim's commentary, coupled with her highly commercial use of the works that she specifically intended to serve as substitute for the originals, fails to justify copying TEI's works in their entirety, or nearly in their entirety. Rather, Denim's group viewing session is a quintessential example of copyright infringement, i.e. the unauthorized exploitation of TEI's works to get attention and avoid the drudgery in working up something fresh. This lawsuit is to hold Denims accountable for her infringement and the H3 Snark mods accountable for materially contributing to her infringement. I guess sometimes in a complaint you can add a whole bunch of extra stuff just so you can pile on your like civil causes of action, like for your claims for relief and everything. Although I think at the end of this they only have 2. Okay, Alexander was an individual. Okay, oh, so the H3 Snark mods are also named in this complaint. Okay, I was wondering because are they adding them into the complaint as well, and they are adding them into the complaint? Okay, damn. Doesn't the misinformation claim prove the malicious nature of Denims if the information is easily accessible? Malicious intent doesn't have anything technically to do with satisfying the elements of copyright. And I don't know, even debating like misinformation, this is going to be like a free speech question and everything. And you're not going to, that's just not happening in this case. Like maybe if you were suing for like defamation or something, then we could get into that. But jurisdiction and venue, the action arises under the Copyright Act, 17 U.S.C., Section 101. This court has federal question jurisdiction under 28 U.S.C. 1331. Venue in this judicial district is proper under 28 U.S.C. 49 because a substantial part of the acts and omissions giving rise to the claims occurred in this judicial district. So this is a federal law, the copyright. So it would be probably in a federal court for a jurisdiction, and then venue is going to be, I mean, California, I think, is where both of them live and all the actions have taken place. So the venue is probably pretty easy here, I would imagine. TEI is a California corporation with its principal place of business located in LA County, California. TEI is a production company that produces content for social media, namely YouTube. Denims is an online streamer who releases content on social media platforms, namely Twitch, and resides in Venues, I don't know, pronounce this, California. The H3 Snark mods are comprised of does numbers 1 through 10. The true names and exact location of does numbers 1 through 10 are presently unknown to TEI, which therefore sues said doe defendants by such fictitious names and will seek leave to amend this complaint to show their true names and exact locations when the same have been ascertained. Below is a summary of what is known about does numbers 1 through 6. Doe 1 is female, the founder of H3 Snark and one of the H3 Snark mods. She previously used the Reddit username u/Ozempic dealer, which doe number 1 subsequently deleted. Her last post using this handle was on February 12, 2025. Doe number 1 also uses the Discord handle Yogi Bear X and the screen name Paris Hilton. Screen name where? On Discord or just on some other place? Doe number 2 is female, resides in Canada, and is the head moderator of the H3 Snark mods. Doe number 2 currently uses the following Reddit usernames. These usernames. Previously, Doe number 2 used the following Reddit usernames, which were either deleted by Doe or suspended by Reddit. And then they used the screen name Sally and Aludhern. Doe 3 began as a user of H3 Snark. Doe 5, Doe 6, and Doe 7 through 10 are the remaining H3 Snark mods. Okay. Factual allegations. Background of TEI. TEI was founded in 2016 by Ethan and Eli Klein. The Kleins rose to prominence on YouTube with 2 channels, H3 Productions, their primary channel, and Ethan and Ela, their secondary channel. The Kleins created highly stylized reaction videos to other YouTube videos. The Kleins' reaction videos interspersed relatively short segments of the original video with long segments of the Kleins' commentary, quoting their other court case. Hosenzada, I don't know how to pronounce this. After TEI was established, the Kleins assigned both channels to TEI. 2016, the Kleins were sued for copyright infringement, defamation, and misrepresentation under 17 U.S.C. Section 512 by Matt Hosenzade, Matt Haas, the bold guy. Copyright claim concerned a reaction video uploaded to their Ethan and Ela YouTube channel. The video, entitled The Big, the Bold, the Beautiful, was a critical and humorous reaction to Matt Haas's video, Bold Guy vs. Parkour Girl. This is their old about that court case. The court granted summary judgment for the Kleins on all of Matt Haas's claims. 2017, TI established the H3 podcast. On the new channel, TI produced podcast episodes that were less structured than the reaction videos clients previously made. To ensure any use of unlicensed copyrighted content qualified as fair use, TI formulated and refined best practices based on the principles from here, which include that other court case, whenever feasible, pre-screening the original work and outlining the criticism and the commentary before the broadcast. 2, ensuring the commentary was directly related to the style and or substance. Blah, 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 blah. Okay, Denims. The alt-left's answer to Kellyanne Conway. Jesus. Okay. Denims LARPs, i.e. live action roleplay. Okay. As a revolutionary from the comfort of her bedroom in California, she is a prolific purveyor of misinformation and speaks with great confidence on topics where her knowledge leaves much to be desired. Denims repeatedly inserts herself into public controversies by employing poor judgment, knee-jerk contrarianism, and a consistent impulse to defend the indefensible, including copyright infringement, terrorism, and extremism. Denims is one of the most loyal and ardent defenders of Hassan Piker, primarily known as Hassanabi, or Hassan, the most prominent alt-left streamer on Twitch. Much like Scientologists engage in fair game, Denims ruthlessly attacks with reckless abandon anyone who disagrees with her or Hassan. She parrots Hassan's style, rhetoric, and content strategy, i.e. regularly streaming React content with minimal transformation or commentary. As such, she has assumed a leading role in Hassan's waiting room, a collective of streamers who cultishly follow Hassan and parasitically leech off of his audience by streaming before and after him. On November 17, 2023, in a now deleted video, Denims reads Osama bin Laden's letter to America in its entirety on stream. Are we claiming copyright of that next? She frequently expressed agreement and support for the letter, such as, America deserved 9/11. I can't disavow facts, man. I can't disavow reality. That's not how this works, bro. Denims reading from the letter, why do they attack us in New York and Washington? If Ariel Sharon is a man of peace in the eyes of George W. Bush, we're also men of peace. America does not understand the language of manners and principles, so we are addressing it using the language it understands. Denim's response, he's not wrong about that. The U.S. only understands violence. Bin Laden's criticism of the United States were all correct. Despite Twitch's prohibition on terrorist propaganda, Twitch gave Denims a slap on the wrist by banning her for just a day. On December 12, 2022, in a now deleted video, Denims responded to the December 8, 2022 video of June Nicole Lapine, aka, or primarily known as Shoe on Head, which critiqued Balenciaga's advertising campaign that depicted minors in highly sexualized BDSM attire. Rather than acknowledge the widespread concern, Denims took the absurdly grotesque position of defending Balenciaga's advertising campaign and attempted to paint Shoe on Head as homophobic, despite Shoe on Head not mentioning homosexuality whatsoever. I don't think any of this should be in here. I think this is all to have in here at all. But Denim's involvement in the public controversy known as ReactGate provides great insight into her willful disregard for copyright. In early 2022, Hassan and Denims, along with several other Twitch streamers, received intense criticism for conducting group viewing sessions of third-party copyrighted content without permission. In these group viewing sessions, streamers like Hassan and Denims would watch entire copyrighted works with little to no commentary, sometimes even letting the video play when they were not present, or while the streamer was sleeping. The controversy reached a fever pitch when these group viewing sessions involved mainstream television shows and films. This is good to add in. I think they should have had this. This probably should have been the opening, but on February 1st, 2022, the online content creator known as JXC released a video entitled Hassan Piker Jinx and the Issue of Reaction Content. In the video, JXC drew a distinction between reaction videos that provide substantive critique and or additional insights into the original work and lazy reaction videos that resemble group viewing sessions. In particular, JXC focused on Hassan's group viewing sessions, including 1, his poverty of commentary, 2, his penchant for doing empty share reaction where he lets the video play while he's completely off screen, and 3, his failure to credit the author of the original video or link to the original content. In a now deleted response video, Denims defended the unauthorized use of copyrighted content by asserting that viewers preferred watching streamers over original uploads, particularly when the material is curated. She claimed that established fair use standards are irrelevant to live streaming, including Twitch content, and need not be transformative through substantial commentary or editing. Rather, Denims claimed that a streamer's personality alone can justify the unauthorized rebroadcast of copyrighted material. On February 6th, these are good points. They should have opened with these. This whole I don't know, they're like 3 or 4. What do you call in legal documents? You have like legal P symbol. What's the name of the thing? Is it a P? It is a P, right? Is it just paragraph? Legal paragraph symbol. It's not this. What am I thinking of? Is it a D? No, it is a P. Oh yeah, wait, that thing. What is that? Pilcrow. Okay, Pilcrows. 16, 17, and 18, and 19. All should have been dumped from this, I think. In an undeleted response video, Denims defended the... okay, this is good stuff. On February 6, 2025, Denims and JXC conducted a debate about the propriety... Wait, who is this JXC person? Is this like... who is this? The YouTuber guy she was talking to in the video? No, but I mean, like, does he have like an online name? Or is it just JXC? Oh, that's the name. Okay. I don't know if this was like Dark Viper AU or whatever, but okay, it's just okay. All right. JXC conducted a debate about the propriety of group viewing sessions that was moderated by the online content creator Name Chud Logic. During the video, Denims makes several damning statements about her personal perception on the unauthorized use of copyrighted content. Some notable moments are listed below. Early on in the debate, Denims acknowledges that she uses third-party content as filler and that it siphons views away from the original. This is so pedantic, and I don't know how much it really matters, but when it comes to formatting your complaints for inline quotes like this, are you allowed to have no spacing between the lines? I thought you're supposed to have all of these space between. I don't know if there's where my legal people are, but I just want to be clear on my opinion, like filler content and stuff. Like, I think filler content, you shouldn't do it. I know I do it as a React streamer, and I try to do it only with Vox videos or Vice videos and stuff like that. They have parentheses on a spoken quote. That's interesting, I guess. Videos and stuff like that, because I'm not like directly ripping from one content creator and not like a whole team and stuff. And most of those videos have like 5 million views. I only get like 500 views. Likely, I'm not even going to be taking out. I'm taking maybe 50 views from the video. It's a lot harder to feel like I guess bad about that. Debate video 850 through 918. I don't think the citation is correct, but that's okay. Block quotations are supposed to be single-spaced, indented on both sides, justified and without quotation marks. Oh, okay. So they aren't supposed to have spaces in between. Okay. Do you think that Ethan is pushing his lawyers to put these jabs into the public record? Almost certainly, yeah, for sure. Well, not these. This is all, I think, pretty relevant. Some of the earlier stuff, for sure. Shortly thereafter, Denims accepts her own bias in the situation and her desire to use third-party content. Maybe I'm coping because I'm a reactor and I want to have that content. Later in the video, or later in the debate, Denims sets forth her theory to justify a group viewing session of third-party content that Twitch streamers are curators to provide a communal experience of watching content with their own audience who do not want to take time to find YouTube content on their own. You know, I'm not sure if you click on a random part of the video, I might not be saying anything, sure, whatever. I might walk away from the screen, but it's about like the communal thing. It's not about the actual show at a certain point. It's like, oh, it's the same reason you watch shows with your friends. You want to watch it with other people, right? The debate video again. I think when it comes to streamers on Twitch, a lot of people go watch streamers on Twitch for their React content, almost as a curator. So they don't actually want to go through YouTube themselves and watch a bunch of videos, and they probably never will go through YouTube and click a bunch of videos. They like going to Twitch because they like to have it as is, like the streamers curating fun content and I want to watch. I think that like people who are watching content on Twitch, curated Twitch content on Twitch, aren't necessarily people that would be watching. I don't know, a lot of, okay, these are just a bunch of quotes from her. Denims, however, ultimately concedes that when a viewer watches content curated by Twitch, it serves as a substitute for the original. Okay, background of H3 Snark. H3 Snark is a genre of message boards, is part of a genre of message boards known as subreddits on the website Reddit. Okay, so we're giving an explanation for this. That's good. Snark subreddits consist of fallen fans of a particular entertainer. Over time, there have been numerous Snark subreddits regarding TEI's podcast and of the Kleins, the Klein. Many were banned by Reddit for violating its content policy, such as r/frenemies and r/frenemies2. H3 Snark was created on August 30th, 2023 by Doe Number 1, who was a fanatical Trisha Paytas fan. Doe Number 1 became a fallen fan when the TEI series Frenemies ended abruptly in June 2021. H3 Snark became a haven for fallen fans of TEI's podcasts and the Kleins. While the average viewer would move on with their lives after becoming disinterested in a podcast, H3 Snark fallen fans religiously watched TEI produced content with orgiastic hatred. Okay. H3 Snark enables these deranged and chronically unemployed fallen fans to share their perverse pleasure of hate-watching TEI content with others by providing infringing clips and links to TEI content. Beginning in the fall of 2023, H3 Snark experienced a surge of new users who were fallen fans of the TEI series Leftovers. As mentioned, the show was co-hosted by Ethan and Hassan, who is the most prominent alt-left streamer on the website Twitch. On September 14th, 2023, Ethan and Hassan debated various issues concerning China and Taiwan, such as whether Taiwan should be independent, the propriety of China's subjugation of Tibet, and the genocide of the Uyghurs. Due to Ethan pushing back on Hassan's pro-China positions, several Leftovers fans who had an ecclesiastical parasocial relationship with Hassan flocked to H3 Snark because they felt Ethan was critiquing them personally. The surge of new users to H3 Snark exploded after October 7th, 2023. Kleins are dual Israeli-American citizens. Hila was born and raised in Israel, where she served as a secretary during her mandatory conscription into the Israeli Defense Forces. While both Ethan and Hila are highly supportive of Palestinian self-determination and extremely critical of Israel and its government, the Kleins support a two-state solution as the best interim solution of the conflict. In the wake of October 7th, Hassan emerged as the modern incarnation of the Grand Mufti Haj Amin al-Husseini. Like al-Husseini, Hassan became a passionate advocate and highly charismatic leader of the Palestinian cause. Like al-Husseini, Hassan used his massive platform to spread genocidal rhetoric about anyone advocating for the right of Jewish self-determination and their ancestral homeland. The primary difference between Hassan and al-Husseini is that al-Husseini worked with the Nazis and advocated the annihilation of Jews, while Hassan advocates the annihilation of all Zionists. Since the vast majority of Jews in the United States say caring about Israel is essential or important, this would necessarily include the vast majority of Jews, even if they support the Palestinian cause and vehemently condemn the actions of the Israeli government. Okay, I don't know why. I feel like I don't know what the point is of including any of this at all, but okay. Yeah, I don't have any more Hitler photos in my motions. Do you think they feel comfortable putting in all the Mimi stuff because the actual legal argument is so solid, like they can throw this in and make it stick and not hurt the case? I don't know. I don't know how all that, I can't say I pretend to know how all that works. I guess a fear that I would have, this is an intuitive fear, and I don't know if this is borne out in complaint-related stuff, is that if you include too much inappropriate stuff, it's seen as like prejudicial or not related to the complaint, and it can taint or poison the complaint in such a way that it's no longer valid. Would be the first concern, I guess. And then the second concern is I wonder how much like the First Amendment stuff would ever influence somebody suing somebody for something else. Like for defamatory stuff and everything, I don't know how much your claims are hurt there if you're trying to bolster a lot of your claims by saying you don't like their First Amendment exercise of freedom of speech. And a lot of this stuff is fixated on stuff that wouldn't be, from a government sense, considered like viewpoint neutral, right? Like even if somebody believes or says all of these things, however horrific you might feel they are, it's their First Amendment right to say it, and it has absolutely no bearing on the complaint whatsoever. So I don't know why any of that would ever be included. But quote, Arabs rise as one man and fight for your sacred rights, kill the Jews wherever you find them. This pleases God, history, and religion. This saves your honor. God is with you. Quote, al-Husseini. I imagine their in-court conduct would be different, and that that would be the main focus the judge is focused on. Yeah, sure. I just don't know how it would impact the pleading stages of the complaint. I don't know if it would or wouldn't. Would they have a chance to revise the initial complaint to submit something more reasonable? Yeah, you can amend your complaint, but typically when you're amending a complaint, I'm saying typically without any experience. I'm trying to be very careful. My understanding is if you're amending a complaint, it's because you're including something that you might have needed to file a lawsuit first to know. So maybe, for instance, you don't have the name of somebody, so you file a suit against a John Doe, like there's Does in this suit. And then after you file the complaint, you figure out the information and you amend the complaint to include that. Or maybe you file a suit and it's missing something or you need to add something. But I don't think it would be commonplace to amend your complaint to delete half the material because it was too Mimi. That feels like it's... I don't think that would be standard practice. That would be my guess. But I mean, I could be wrong. Isn't this just the summary that has a broad leeway to editorialize, like they go into the initial complaints, which have to point to issues? I mean, a complaint is a complaint. Yeah, you can put whatever you want in here. I mean, Pixie did in her complaint against me. If you want, you can throw whatever you want in here. I don't know if this makes a judge more or less favorable to your case. I don't know if it makes it seem more or less serious. Maybe it doesn't even matter at all. On October 12th, 2023, the last episode of Leftover, well, I'm curious. Does it hurt your complaint suing someone include too much stuff? No clue. I don't even know. I don't know. I have to talk to somebody who files a lot of civil complaints, I guess, and see what their experience is. How much of this would be just them trying to paint a picture that H3 is a target of hate along Jewish lines, etc.? Well, anti-Semitism isn't illegal, so I feel like that wouldn't be that relevant, but I don't know. If you're going to say Pixie's complaint is unhinged and this isn't, you're according to you, hers was unhinged and crazy. Here, you're just like, yeah, gee, I don't know if this hurts the case. Is it too Mimi? Yeah, I don't know. Let's wait and see. So firstly, I'm 17 pages out of 80 of this, and I've already said like a third of this should have been dumped because it seems irrelevant. Like, I don't know what else. Can I like finish reading? Is that okay? Yeah, also my criticism of Pixies wasn't necessarily because it was Mimi, it was because it included a ton of irrelevant information, which I've said this includes a ton of irrelevant, and because she has lied about a ton of shit in the complaint. But, you know, okay. The last episode of Leftovers aired, it expressed a discussion between Ethan and Hassan regarding the Israel-Palestine conflict and the events of October 7th. During the discussion, Ethan expressed his support of the Palestinian cause and empathy for their suffering, along with condemning Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. At the same time, Ethan attempted to humanize the victims of October 7th to Hassan in the hope that empathy and mutual understanding could begin to heal the divide. Hassan Hassan was unpersuaded, and the relationship with Hassan and Ethan began to deteriorate. In the aftermath of the falling out between Ethan and Hassan, H3 Snark became a radioactive hub of fallen fans of TEI content and the clients. It became a focal point for spreading vicious lies, outlandish conspiracy theories, and hallucinatory misrepresentations about the clients. The rampant copyright infringement on H3 Snark. Despite their hatred towards the clients, the users of H3 Snark had an insatiable appetite for TEI's content. The H3 Snark subreddit users, however, did not want TEI to receive any views or advertising revenue from the consumption of TEI's content. As a result, H3 Snark became a locus of copyright infringement of TEI content as detailed below. One method the H3 Snark mods employed to consume TEI content was to share links of TEI content on YouTube, a website that provides unauthorized access to YouTube videos and publicly performs them, which constitutes copyright infringement. And then they cite this case here. We're not going to read all the underlying cases. All that. Wait. One method the H3 Snark mods employed to consume TEI content was to share links of TEI content on YouTube, a website that provides unauthorized access to YouTube videos and publicly performs them, which constitutes copyright infringement. This copyright dispute tests the limits of our holdings in Perfect 10 v. Amazon in light of the Supreme Court's subsequent decision in American Broadcasting Companies, Inc. v. Arrow. Plaintiffs appellees Alexi Hunley and Matthew Scott Brower, collectively, Hunley, are photographers who sued defendant Instagram for copyright infringement. Hunley alleges that Instagram violates their exclusive display right by permitting third-party sites to embed the photographer's Instagram content. The district court held that Instagram could not be liable for secondary infringement because embedding a photo does not display a copy of the underlying images under Perfect 10. We agree with the district court that Perfect 10 forecloses relief in this case. Accordingly, we affirm. I wonder what they're citing to this that they agree with, because it seems like the claim here lost, but this might be common. Remember, I have absolutely no experience in common practice with filing civil complaints and all this shit. Although remember, almost everybody online commenting on this also has no common practice with this as well, regardless of their educational background or their current job. Filing civil complaints around stuff like this is going to be a lot different than other types of legal work. So I'm just qualifying that. That being said, I don't know how I feel about citing court cases without even putting a relevant quote in. I don't know what we're citing to this case for. I don't know but maybe that's ordinary or normal sometimes. YouTube had particular appeal to H3 Snark mods and H3 Snark users because a video watched on YouTube does not result in a view or advertising revenue to the original on YouTube. H3 Snark mods conducted live chats during TEI's live broadcast. During the live chats, the H3 Snark mods would spam the chat with YouTube links of the broadcast. Once the live stream ended, the H3 Snark mods concealed the evidence of their copyright infringement by deleting the live chat logs. Below are true and correct screenshots of the H3 Snark mods spamming the live chat with YouTube links to TEI copyrighted content. Wouldn't they be arguing that YouTube does create a copy because you don't interact with an embed? Sure, but is there not a successful case to cite for that? Number one. And number two, I don't believe that YouTube is listed as a defendant here, right? It's just the H3 Snark mods and Denims. Okay, H3 Snark mods conducted live chats during TEI's live broadcasts. During the live chats, the H3 Snark mods would spam the chat with YouTube links of the broadcast. Once live stream, okay, then we have this. Screenshots, I guess, of them spamming links to this. Doe number 3 encouraged H3 Snark users to use YouTube as an alternative to watching the TEI's video on its official channel by commenting on certain posts. Doe number 3's comments were later wiped due to Doe number 3's efforts. The user was anointed as one of the H3 Snark mods. Some examples of Doe number 3 inducing copyright infringement of TEI content are contained below. In August of 2024, the Pearl Unicorn, the user account, created the post for those who wonder why Snarkers watch moments like the second button failure. Below is a true and correct screenshot of number 3 stating, we encourage folks to watch on YouTube since it doesn't play ads or contribute to their view count. As can be noted, down number 3's comment was subsequently wiped from August 2024 post. On August 28, 2024, the H3 Snark moderators created a post entitled Mega Thread the H3 Show. Below is a true and correct screenshot of Doe number 3, providing a link to the TEI content on YouTube. As can be noted, Doe number 3's comment has been wiped. Okay, so just them constantly promoting this site. I don't know, for assisting in copyright infringement, I don't know what the penalty with the law looks like for that at all. So I don't know what the elements of that are or what you have to satisfy to sue somebody. Wait. The underlying case reaffirmed the server test, where as long as the server is the same, embeddings aren't copyright infringing. Hosting your own, however, is, I assume. The Ninth Circuit has ruled that its server test allows for copyright content to be embedded on another's website without violating U.S. copyright law. The copyright owner's public display right in particular. Why? Because embedding does not involve storing the copyrighted content on the website owner's computer or server. It merely provides instructions to a web browser to show content stored on the host website. Okay. That would have been I think, a better citation. This isn't the actual court writing itself, so it would be a citation of the case. But I'm assuming that they wrote server test somewhere in that case if it's in quotes. So H3 Snark mods also targeted H3 Snark on how to create clips of TI content. So these clips could be posted on H3. Okay, that's all this. TI began to fight back against copyright infringement on H3 Snark by issuing takedown notices. Pursuant to 17 USC section, TI was extremely surgical about which H3 Snark posts would be subject to DMCA takedowns, relying on the most pertinent fair use decisions. Okay, okay, shoot it on, okay. So these are just posts that they're taking down from the H3 Snark subreddit. Does that YouTube site, does that not honor DMCA takedowns? Did they ever try to DMCA take down that website, or I'm just curious? It might be a site that just explicitly doesn't give a to, so. First DMCA takedown was for the H3 Snark post. The H3 Snark mods' efforts to issue fraudulent counter notifications. The H3 Snark mods made a concerted effort to issue fraudulent counter notifications to TEI's DMCA takedowns as detailed below. On January 15, 2025, Reddit informed TEI that a so-called counter notification was issued against both the 8/30/24 takedown and the September 18th, 2024 takedown, the first fraudulent counter notification. Reddit informed TEI nearly 3 months later. On its face, the first fraudulent counter notification failed to satisfy the requirements of 17 USC section 512, subsection G3, because it failed to include 1, the issuer's address and telephone number, 2, consent to jurisdiction and service of process, and 3, a statement made under penalty of perjury. Further, the first fraudulent counter notification contained numerous indicia of being fraudulent because 1, it was a single counter notification for posts made by 2 different users, and 2, it misrepresented the 8/30/24 takedown for the post. It was also evident the first fraudulent counter notification was issued by the H3 Snark mods because it stated, "We are writing to contest the removal of 2 posts from our subreddit under alleged copyright claims. We believe these reports may have been filed by fans rather than the legitimate copyright holder." I wonder if that's a reason to contest a copyright notification. Filing counterclaims fraudulently, my guess, is going to start to put you in a really, really bad area. Like if somebody copyright claims your shit and it's whatever, then you get your shit gets taken down. It depends on that's going to come down to like the terms of service on a website, basically. But if you start to file counterclaims, when you file a counterclaim, what you're essentially telling the other person is, I don't believe you, sue me. That's really what a counterclaim is. And counterclaim stuff is generally, I believe what is it called? The Digital Millennium Copyright Act or whatever, the DMCA, I think has provisions for how these need to be structured. I mean, they're citing them up here. 17 USC section 512, 17 USC section 512, subsection G3, EFG3, replacement of removed or disabled material and limitations on other liability. Contents of counter notification. To be effective under this subsection, a counter notification must be a written communication provided to the service provider's designated agent. So like YouTube's DMCA counter department or whoever is supposed to handle claims like this, that includes substantially the following: a physical or electronic signature of the subscriber, identification of the material that has been removed or to which access has been disabled, and the location at which the material appeared before it was removed or access to it was disabled. A statement under penalty of perjury that the subscriber has a good faith belief that the material is removed or disabled as a result of mistaken or misidentification of the material to be removed or disabled, and the subscriber's name, address, and telephone number, and a statement that a subscriber consents to the jurisdiction of federal district court for the judicial district in which the address is located, or if the subscriber's address is outside of the U.S. for any judicial district in which the service provider may be found. Okay. So nothing in here says you can counterclaim a DMCA because you think that the person who filed it isn't the actual person who is the copyright holder. But how do you feel about Ethan dragging in subreddit moderators into this? Like, imagine some 17-year-old kid explaining to his parents he's getting sued for up to $150K for a snark Reddit. Good. I mean, if you're like actively engaged in copyright infringement like this and like maliciously actively engaged in it, then the name of the issuer was Michael Anderson, a generic name that would make it impossible to identify the issuer of the first fraudulent counter notification. Well, I mean, it could be his real name now. I'm guessing they know for a fact it's not his real name, but on January 16th to 17th, 2025, 2 days after receiving the first fraudulent counter notification, TEI explained in exacting detail the facts and law demonstrating the first fraudulent counter notification was invalid. On March 18th, over 2 months later, Reddit responded that it agreed that the first fraudulent counter notification was invalid, but claimed that it would refuse to honor the takedown because the post only linked to TEI's video on YouTube. Same day, TEI explained to Reddit that this was false because the 8/30/24 takedown explicitly stated it was directed at the comment by doe number 3 and contained a YouTube link, including providing a screenshot for the comment. To date, Reddit has not responded. So it sounds like for embedding, you can't hold somebody, but I don't know how that works for DMCAing stuff. If you can DMCA it like an embed, I'm not sure how that works 100%. Additionally, on March 18th, 2025, the same day Reddit informed TEI that the first fraudulent counter notification was invalid, Reddit notified TEI that another counter notification was issued regarding the 918 takedown. The second fraudulent counter notification was issued on December 5th. Although I will say Reddit does remove comments for like DMCA and shit. And I think the comments that are removed are sometimes just embeds of other stuff. So I don't know. YouTube doesn't embed, they host a copy. No, but posting YouTube onto Reddit, it would be an embed on Reddit. Reddit is not directly hosting the material. YouTube would be, right? The second fraudulent counter notification contained no indicia. It's got to be indicia or something, right? That the issue considered the 4 fair use factors prior to issuing the second fraudulent counter notification, which is unlawful. Further, the language of the second fraudulent notification demonstrated that the issuer did not understand fair use in general by stating this was an abuse of the fair use system, which is bizarre because user Brian Potatoes was claiming fair use, not TEI. And 2, the conclusory assertion, even so, would still be allowed under fair use without any analysis. Fair use is not a claim for a counter takedown request. I don't believe fair use. Fair use is an affirmative defense that you use in court once you've been sued for hosting copyrighted material. So I don't know why you would put fair use in your counterclaim, but let's see. In an April 11th, 2025 post on X by O'Brien Potatoes, Ethan Klein isn't just going after public figures criticizing him. He's also threatening litigation against random people like me who allegedly posted a 1.5-minute long clip on reddit.com. Limeo, you have to be kidding me. But he's not suing you for hosting stuff. It's because you filed a counterclaim that was likely illegal. But okay. Also, they addressed me by an incorrect name and gender, Limeo. Okay, good one. The second fraudulent counter notification also echoed similar language, indicating H3 Snark Mods work with O'Brien Potatoes. Issued the second subreddit has also been mercy to many bad faith brigades recently, so I do not believe this appeal was filed by the actual copyright owner, despite the 911 containing TI Council's contact information. Additionally, after the second takedown was issued, one of the Snark Mods left a comment on the post stating, I reached out via DM to discuss how to appeal these. If you're willing to fill out the form, this further emphasizes the H3 Snark Mods coordinated a campaign of issuing fraudulent counter notifications to enable H3 Snark's copyright infringement. H3 Snark Mods went on a public relations campaign to paint TEI's DMCA takedowns as fraudulent to cover up their copyright infringement. To achieve this objective, the H3 Snark Mods authored several posts misrepresenting the facts. After they became vocal about pursuing claims against H3 Snark, the H3 Snarks began deleting their posts, comments, and accounts en masse to perpetuate their false narrative and conceal their copyright infringement. On March 5th, 2025, a YouTuber by the name of The Law posted a video on YouTube entitled Dear H3 Snark, I See You. In the video, The Law admits he was a former H3 Snark user, came to reject the obsessive destructive behavior he saw taking over the subreddit. He documented the acts of copyright infringement by H3 Snark users and H3 Snark mods. The H3 Snark mods deleted posts after Ethan announced plans, blah, 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 blah. Okay. By the fall of 2024, Ethan and Eli Klein's concern reached a fever pitch over Hassan radicalizing his audience with propaganda from Ansar Allah, aka the Houthis, Hezbollah, and Hamas. This makes it sound like Ansar Allah could be all three of these, I feel. This is unclear, but okay. The Kleins were equally concerned with Twitch's refusal to enforce its community guidelines against Hassan and his so-called waiting room, i.e. other Twitch streamers like Denims who parrot Hassan and parasitically leech off his audience by broadcasting immediately before or after his streams. Hassan and his waiting room hijacked the necessary and important discussion of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict and the Gaza war. They employed genocidal rhetoric that painted all Israelis as subhuman, wanting annihilation. The term Zionist lost all meaning and quickly mutated into a thinly veiled dog whistle for Jews. To combat the tsunami of hateful rhetoric, Ethan and Eli Klein, through TEI, created content nuke Hassan Piker. The nuke was written, shot, and edited from December 2024 through January of 2025. On January 27th, 2024, 4 days before the nuke was publicly released, TEI submitted its application to register the nuke with the United States Copyright Office. On January 28th, the USCO received the deposit copy of the nuke. The registration number for the nuke is PAU 4256 429. The deposit copy varies slightly from the broadcast version of the nuke. First, the deposit copy did not contain the conclusion and sponsor segment that was contained in the broadcast version. Second, to prevent the nuke from being age-restricted by YouTube, which would limit its reach, TEI was required to fully blur out the footage of the Houthis entering the brigade of the Galaxy leader and black out the footage of Hamas releasing hostages from November 2023. Third, minor visual edits were made. Ultimately, all the deposit copy was incorporated into the broadcast version of the nuke comprised of the deposit copy. The Nuke is a tragicomic documentary critiquing Hassan and Twitch. It contains of original footage, highly edited montages, parodic skits, and archival materials, a great deal of which are owned by TEI. The nuke can be divided into 7 sections: the prologue, the Twitch parody sketch, the Houthi section, the Hezbollah section, the Hamas section, the Twitch section, the conclusion. Oh my God. Do not care. Love Sabra. Oh no. Dan Clancy. Oh no. Anti-Semitism. Oh no. January 31st, 2025, TEI made a live broadcast of the countdown episode immediately before releasing the nuke. The countdown episode covered various topics and was an hour and 6 minutes and 21 seconds in duration. A true and correct copy of the deposit copy is located on the flash drive as Exhibit F. After TEI discovered the Denims infringed the copy or the countdown episode, it registered countdown episode with the USCO on March 31st. H3 Snark promotes Denims as a substitute to watching the nuke. Throughout January 2025, Ethan built up public interest in the nuke by frequently discussing it on the H3 show. The audience of Hassan and his waiting room, who comprised a large portion of the users of an H3 Snark, anticipated the nuke with religious fervor to defend their proverbial Grand Mufti from criticism. These fanatics, however, did not want to watch the authorized version of the nuke because TEI would reap the benefits from the views and resulting advertising revenue. The H3 Snark mods knew that there was a huge demand to watch the nuke through unauthorized channels and promoted group viewing sessions. The nuke as follows. January 30th. Okay, so this is just them promoting people to watch the nuke through not H3H3 obviously controlled YouTube channels or whatever. He said read the section before this one. Stephen Bonnell uses the band of Stephen Bonnell II, aka primarily known as Destiny. Isn't like a DBA or aka different? Like, am I really primarily known as I'm primarily known as Stephen Bonnell. That's my name. That's what people call me. I feel like my doing business as or my AKA is a little different, but professionally. That's what the P means. Well, maybe, okay. Destiny is permanently banned from Twitch for calling the streamer and transactivist Clara Sorrenti inbred. A montage is shown of Hassan repeatedly referring to Jews in Israel as inbred, blah, blah, blah. So receive no punishment because he's Clancy's favorite streamer. Ethan Ruka, okay. What if Twitch unbans me just because of this? January 31st, 2025, the H3 mods created another pinned community post entitled Denims Live, reacting now to today's H3 podcast. At some point, okay. H3 Snark mods were well aware of Denim's reputation for copyright infringement and lazy reaction videos. The law of fair use and reaction videos. Fair use is codified in Section 107 of the Copyright Act. The statute sets forth 4 non-exclusive factors courts consider to evaluate fair use. This section will be a breakdown of the fair use factors. Should be pretty boilerplate. Denim's group viewing session failed to make a fair use of the countdown episode. This section should just be applying the legal standard that was explained here to what's being alleged in the complaint, and then demonstrating that Denim's group viewing session probably fails to meet. Well, I don't know if it's appropriate, actually. When I'm saying this, I'm not saying this like a fucking Joe Rogan, like, oh, I'm just asking questions. Like, I legitimately don't know. I don't know if it's appropriate to bring up any fair use stuff in the complaint, because all you'd have to do in the complaint is allege that the infringement has taken place. And if you allege the infringement has taken place, like fair use arguments would be in the pleading stage, the response to the complaint is going to be them doing fair use. They're going to say, this is my response to this allegation, and it's going to be an affirmative defense if this is considered affirmative defense fair use. And then that'll be something that they hash out in the, I don't know if you call it the discovery phase, whatever comes after the pleading phase. And then that'll go back and forth for summary judgment, or it'll show up at trial, I guess. Wouldn't they need to counter fair use because that is the counterclaim argument? Yeah, but that's not done in the pleading stage. In the pleading stage, they're just saying, this is what I'm suing him for. And then you're asking the other person, what's your response? And the response is going to be, obviously, I deny these things. Or if I do agree, well, this is the reason why. It's because of the fair use defense. You don't have to fight that out in the pleading stage. That's what you're going to fight next in the... there's got to be like a graph. Where are my civil procedure people at? There's got to be like a graph or something that shows like what are all the stages of a lawsuit. I only know the ones that I've been through so far. The pleading stage, the discovery phase stage, and then the what's next, trial stage. There is usually the requirement for the suing party to consider fair use before suing, as that is part of the good faith belief that they are actually infringing. Okay, that could be the case. It could be that there is such an unbelievably common affirmative defense to a particular claim that it might be standard practice to refute that affirmative defense in a claim before it's even brought up, maybe. That could be the case, right? Like if somebody is civilly suing somebody for damages related to like, you might not just put in the complaint, we had sex. You would put in the complaint, is this the same thing? You would try to counter their claim of saying it's non-consensual, even though, well, don't forget I even said that. I don't think that makes sense at all. Is consensual sex an affirmative defense to a rape claim? I don't think it would work that way. That seems unhinged. I don't know if that's true or not. Ignore everything I just said there. I don't know if that's the case. In a world where you get unbanned by Twitch, would you go back? Are there streamers that you would debate or converse with that you avoid you because of the ban? Maybe. I would have access to debating people there. I might stream sometimes. I just feel bad that the Twitch audience is just completely like mind raped by the horrible political stuff that's on there. Like it's just like your big political streamers on Twitch are Asmongold and Hassan, which I think is really sad. There are no huge center-left voices on Twitch at all. The fair use factor relates to the problem of substitution, whether the work supersedes or supplants. Actually, yeah, so it might be the fact that maybe fair use is something that you consider possibly in the complaint. This is for California, but it looks cool. Lawsuit filed. So the defendant files, responsive pleading. Oh, wait, so the lawsuit is filed, and then the defendant files a responsive pleading, either answer or demurrer and or motion to strike. Are these happening at the same time? Like it's going left to right and top to bottom, or? Okay, never mind. Okay, so you serve a complaint. The other person has, I think it's 21 days to respond in federal court. This has 30 days to respond for California. I guess you can do discovery prior to a complaint even being filed. Once discovery is over, you do mediation. I don't know what mediation involves, if that's just both sides agreeing to work something out without a judge involved. And I guess if you can't mediate anything, then you go to trial. There you go. The parties may mediate at any time, though. Sure. Okay. Where were we? Jesus Christ. The first fair use. Okay, so this goes through all the fair use factors here. And then this is doing the denim stuff. Holy Christ, the timestamps. Uh-oh. In total, Denim's group viewing session of the Countdown episode was 1 hour, 3 minutes, and 56 seconds. During the group viewing session, Denim's provided approximately 4 minutes and 43 seconds of brief and superficial commentary that usually has little critical bearing on the Countdown episode, 43 seconds of partially related commentary on the Countdown episode that meanders into unrelated topics, and 2 minutes and 12 seconds of unrelated or unintelligible comments. In simple terms, out of a total runtime of 1 hour and 3 minutes, 56 seconds, the Countdown episode played uninterrupted for nearly 88% of the total runtime. Denim's also had the Countdown episode take up approximately 3/4 of the screen, while she only occupies approximately 1/4 of the screen. That de-emphasizes her presence. Denim's objective was to provide a large and unrestricted view of the Countdown episode to her audience. It was clearly commercial. Our website that compiles statistical data on Twitch streamers. Shortly before a group viewing session of the nuke, Denim receives a message from her chat stating, "We're relying on you to stay live so we don't give more views to the nuke." Denim replies with, "Yeah, I'm going to stream it since Ethan confirmed it's coming out today. We're going to stream it." Immediately prior to and throughout Denim's group viewing session of the nuke, she prominently displays a Chiron, that's what this is, that was pronounced right, Chiron, at the top of the screen that stated, "Watching a Sun content nuke from Ethan Klein." During Denim's group viewing sessions, Denim responds to a chatter by stating, "Unfortunately, we're watching the Ethan nuke. Blah, blah, blah. Appreciate you guys tuning in. I didn't want to watch that myself." And I know all of those people didn't want to give the video another view, which is why they watched it with me. And probably a lot of people, because they ended their H3 show immediately before releasing the video. So there probably was a lot of people that came to watch it here. Denim's attempt to feign ignorance of H3 Snark is transparently and comically false. Rather, it is clear that Denim's and the H3 Snark mods coordinated their efforts. Indeed, after ending her group viewing session of the nuke, Denim's screen shows that she had the H3 Snark subreddit on her screen the entire time. Denim's begins her group viewing session of the nuke 1 minute after the nuke was released to the public. The timing of Denim's group viewing session of the nuke demonstrates she did not pre-screen it to formulate her opinions, spread broadcast. Okay. On 74 separate occasions, Denim's group viewing session consisted of watching the nuke for 30 seconds or more with no commentary whatsoever. In total, these excerpts comprise over 70 minutes of the nuke, i.e. 70% of its total runtime. The poverty of Denim's commentary, colored by frequently showing long, unadulterated portions of the nuke, further demonstrate that the overriding and dominant purpose of Denim's group viewing session was to serve as a substitute for the original and not to provide critical commentary. For the majority of her group viewing session, Denim speaks briefly. After showing a much longer excerpt of the nuke, the fact that the excerpts Denim shows of the nuke frequently eclipse her statements further emphasizes that the primary purpose of her group viewing session was to provide a substitute for the original. If I sat here and explained why he was wrong for like half of these things, we would be here for another 20 hours. Yikes. I've gone in and tried to explain why he's incorrect on like 1 in every 10 incorrect takes because I'm not trying to spend an entire week here. I don't even understand what to say about because, yeah, this is wrong because of this, another wrong take. Okay, well, I just paused it for 10 minutes. I feel bad pausing it again because surely there'll be something better here. Okay. Denham's admission that she failed to address the majority of points raised in the nuke is self-evident. This further emphasizes that Denham's primary purpose was to host a group viewing session of the nuke and that any criticism was an afterthought. She fails to address the following points raised in the prologue of the nuke. Okay. On numerous occasions, Denham's makes utterances that are completely incoherent or unclear. Okay. Denham's frequently makes superficial comments with little to no elaboration. Okay. When Ethan cites the Band of Destiny as an example of Twitch's inconsistent enforcement of its community guidelines, Denham's claims that the ban was due to Destiny's statements condoning Kyle Rittenhouse killing protesters, only to realize that the ban was due to Destiny calling Keffels inbred. A lot of this is like countering Denham's claims about her commentary. I don't know what the point of that is. I don't know why this needs to be in here, but Denham's, who is not Jewish, good one, makes the grotesquely bigoted statement that it is anti-Semitic to associate Zionism with Judaism. Okay. First claim for relief for direct copyright infringement against Denham's. TEI incorporates, by reference, the allegations contained in the preceding paragraphs of this complaint. TEI not granting a license. Due to Denham's acts of copyright infringement, TEI has suffered damages in an amount to be established at trial. I'm surprised I didn't put a request or name any damages in here. I feel like that's pretty common for complaints that I've seen, but again, I don't have like a ton of, I don't have like a lot of experience reading copyright complaints, so maybe that's common practice for copyright-related stuff. Due to Denham's act of copyright infringement, Denham's obtained profit she would not have realized for her infringement of this. Acts of copyright were done with actual constructive knowledge of TEI's rights, such that said acts of copyright infringement were willful, intentional, malicious, and or taken with reckless disregard of TEI's rights. Second claim for relief, contributory copyright infringement. I don't know what this means. Like what section of the law this were made with actual constructive knowledge of TEI's rights. So they're looking for that TEI be awarded defendants in each of their profits plus TEI's losses attributable to defendants' infringement of the Countdown episode, the exact sum to be proven at the time of trial. You could have all these amounts calculated in advance. I don't know why they wouldn't throw any of them up here, but that TEI be awarded defendants in each of their profits plus TEI's losses, or at least your losses, or not your losses. Yeah, your losses, sorry. You could probably guess that. The exact sum to be proven at the time of trial. TEI be awarded if reasonable attorney's fees and costs. The statutory damages in the amount of $150,000 and jury trial demanded. Date June 19. Jesus. Okay. Oh, all right. Okay. Some parts of this are super memey and I feel like shouldn't have been here at all. Like the Hassan thing, I think it was kind of retarded, and some of the opening things were. But there's a lot more in here that I didn't realize. I don't know what the scheme is. It almost feels like RICO, but it's not that obviously. Like, what is contributory copyright infringement? Like if a whole bunch of people are working together to infringe on somebody's copyright. Contributory infringement is a form of secondary liability for direct infringement of a patent, copyright, or trademark. It is a means by which a person may be held liable for infringement even though they did not actually engage in infringing activities. Ooh, okay. So like posting the link to or facilitating the link to or directing traffic to places that you know are copyright infringing, even if you yourself aren't hosting the content directly. The Copyright Act does not expressly impose liability for contributory infringement. According to the U.S. Supreme Court, the absence of such express language in the copyright statute does not preclude the imposition of liability for copyright infringement on certain parties who have not themselves engaged in the infringing activity. One who knowingly induces, causes, or materially contributes to copyright infringement by another, but who has not committed or participated in the infringing act themselves, may be held liable as a contributory infringer if they had knowledge or reason to know of the infringement. Oof, okay. Were either of these cases cited by, right, seriously? You. The Sony one wasn't, was this one? Okay, I don't think they cited either of these. Metro, just making sure. No, okay. Held. The sale of the VTRs to the general public does not constitute contributory infringement of respondents' copyrights. This had to do with some other bullshit. Okay, held. Okay, the protection given to copyrights is wholly statutory, and in a case like this, in which Congress has not plainly marked the course to be followed by the judiciary, the court must be circumspect in constraining the scope of rights created by a statute that never contemplated such a calculus of interests. Any individual may produce a copyrighted work for a fair use. The copyright owner does not possess the exclusive right to such a use. I support respondents' novel theory that supplying the means to accomplish an infringing activity and encourage that activity through advertisement are sufficient to establish liability for copyright infringement. This case does not fall in the category of those in which it is manifestly just to impose vicarious liability because the contributory infringer was in a position to control these copyrighted works by others and had authorized the use without permission from a copyright owner. Here, the only contact between petitioners and the users of the VTRs occurred at the moment of sale. There is no precedent for imposing vicarious liability on the theory that petitioners sold the VTRs with constructive knowledge that their customers might use the equipment to make unauthorized copies of copyrighted material. The sale of copying equipment, like the sale of other articles of commerce, does not constitute contributory infringement. Okay, so it sounds like they considered this at least. So that'll be interesting to see. I feel like there's a strong argument for that in here, obviously. Wow, it's like the strongest argument, basically. Well, damn. Okay. Well, what do you want me to say? What would be more surprising, if they settle or if they don't? I mean, if I was Ethan Klein, my guess is going to be the only person here who could actually pay if they're awarded max statutory damages is probably maybe Denims. Frogan is broke, and Casey Tron was the other defendant, is broke, and likely the anonymous defendants here, the H3 Snark mods, are also probably broke. I mean, if it was me, it would depend on how much what's your hourly cost for the lawyers. I would go for broke. I would say fuck it, go hard. If they want to settle, I think the settlement would have to be close to what you would imagine winning at trial anyway. And then if they want to settle, then go for it. I mean, they're going to get saddled with the bill and the judgment regardless. And then if they don't, then just, I guess, push hard at, yeah, why not, right? Are you sure that Casey Tron is broke? I think she has some whales paying for her life. I knew some MS-13 members that used to live in the state that she was a part of. I don't want to dox her, but she's moved since. And when she moved, like 50% of the MS-13 gang members in that state had to retire from drug dealing and get a job because she was consuming so much marijuana. She was almost single-handedly keeping alive the entire weed trade of where she was. I don't think any individual can support that habit for very long, in my opinion. No way they settle without conditions that prevents them from commenting on clients and requiring community moderation on the matter. I mean, yeah, you can have a whole bunch of like non-disparagement clauses or anything else that would be part of a settlement. Damn. Wait, did Frogan tap that Muslim community $24,000? She's crushing the other two defendants, the named defendants. Or wait, maybe not. Denims, fundraiser by Denims. Oh, she got up to $16,300. Go fund me Casey Tron. $10,000 from one person. Oof. Ooh. These guys are about to very quickly find out how popular each of them are. Oh no. Rip. I can't believe they didn't do like a joint fundraiser or something. That's crazy. Reed Frogans. After nearly 2 years of a targeted harassment campaign against me, Ethan Klein has now escalated it into suing me for reacting to his video on Hassan and myself on his video titled Content Nuke Hassan Piker. I wonder what Ethan's legal firm or law firm is charging him, like what the hourly rate is to write and research and do everything. Read the comments on the donations. What are these Pisco tweets? Re-H3, fine with owners suing to enforce IP against infringements, even though bad intent or malice, legally or colloquially, are not elements. They can justifiably be grounds to pick targets, but the React Savior stuff is cringe, 100% bullshit. Also complain is dog shit. So I wouldn't say the React Savior stuff is 100% bullshit. It's obviously motivated at least by a little bit of evilness. Also, this bad intent or malice are not elements. They do seem to be elements when suing for the maximum statutory damages. I don't know if Pisco addressed that or not, or if he missed it, or if I'm not understanding something about what seems to be the plain reading of the statute. Ethan, who I've praised for standing up for fair use in the past, is pretending the lawsuit is about defending the React community. He starts his video by condemning lazy reaction videos as an injustice. He rightly clips the video of XQC embodying this injustice, playing like, okay. His trashy complaint is filled with typos, formatting errors, irrelevant garbage, and political grievance. Reads like schizophrenic ramblings, but it also promotes the savior narrative. I feel like the copyright-related stuff, I feel like, is incredibly strengthened by the H3 Snark stuff in the middle. I feel like all of that adds a lot more weight. If the contributory stuff is real, I think it shows a lot more malice and foresight on the knowledge of all the people, or on all the people involved. Do you think that H3 was trying to bait Hassan to watch the vid so he could also sue him? No, I don't think there's any proof of that. Some people are saying 30%. Some people are saying he skimmed. Some people are saying he read. Some people are saying he read the whole thing. Okay. I don't know how you can have differing opinions on this when only one of these can be correct, but
Here, we'll make this a grander, on a grander scale. If you check your bank account and like Chase accidentally refunded you an extra $50, you might look at that and be like they were supposed to refund you for some charge or something, and they accidentally gave you another $50. And you see that and you're like, I didn't see anything. Well, listen, they can correct it. They can find it themselves. They can correct it. I don't really care that much. All right. I don't really care that much. If some old lady on the street is like, hey, do you have change for a $10 bill? Nobody carries cash around. But like, do you have change for a $10 bill? I just need to pay the meter. And she hands you a $50 bill instead of a $10 bill and says, oh, times are so tough right now, but got to pay the meter. And you keep the 50. See how one of those feels morally worse? One of those feels like you're stealing from someone who does need it, or you're stealing from, I don't know, not a corporation. One of those feels worse. We're not talking about legality. It's theft regardless. We're talking about what is morally worse. It's theft regardless.
It's theft regardless.
I mean, I don't disagree as long as you acknowledge that it's theft regardless. Sure.